It's time for Twit This Week in Tech, the very last twit in the East Side studio. So we thought we'd do it out in style. Everybody in person, from Alex Lindsay to Jason Snell to Jason Howell. And we're shooting this in Vision Pro Spatial, which means a few of you will be able to watch it as if you're here in the studio. What are we talking about? Well, there's a lot of news. We'll talk about the Olympics and how it's changing thanks to creators. Is Apple at the end of the line? We know Intel for sure is. And we'll talk about the Song of the Day guy suing the SEC over NFTs. It's all coming up next on Twit.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twit. This Week in Tech, episode 991, recorded Sunday, August 4th, 2024. This show is securities fraud. It's time for Twit This Week in Tech, the show we cover the week's tech news. Our last in-studio show in the East Side studio. We're moving out this week. So we thought we'd do something kind of fun and special. Thanks to Alex Lindsay. We can. Hello.
It's in stereo.
Stereo. This is a 3D version of the show, which only people with Vision Pros can see. Is that right?
You can open it. If you see it, if you see the link, you can actually use Safari to open it, and you can see a flat version of it.
Well, what's the point of that?
But if you're watching a flat version, it's not as.
Gary just got it. Look at him.
I would watch. But it will. You'd be better off just watching the regular Twitch stream if you're going to watch a 2D version. But if you have Apple Vision Pro and you want to feel like you're part of the audience, you can see hi. If you're in the Vision Pro, I can wave at you, and that should be dimensional. You should see it in 3D.
Is there any way to see it in the browser with like the two images side by side, and then you can cross your eyes?
Not really. Yeah, that's and swap the eyes.
Yeah.
That's always the fun thing to do. We used to have a switch that we could hit that we build into our compositors for that, where it would swap the eyes, and you get people real comfortable, and you push a little button, and they're like, oh. So, but because the way that the phone delivers this is in HEVC, and so what it does is it takes the left eye and it captures that, and takes the right eye and only sends the delta between the two, and it sends that out as a stream. It's a much more efficient stream, and that's how it's being delivered to the Apple Vision Pro. So it's not a true. You can now with compressor have it converted to left and right eye side by side SPS,
right?
Or you can take SPS and convert it back to the HEVC. So that all those tools are coming, but you can't do it in real time. So the Vision Pro needs to have it delivered in the way that it's designed to send it out.
I asked.
Sorry. There we go. I'll leave it at that.
No, we'll go more into detail. But I haven't even introduced this guy over here. The Tech-sploder is in the house. We welcome back Jason Howell.
Yeah.
Of course, the host of AI Inside with Jeff Jarvis, now at a new time.
Yeah. So while we've been doing it on Wednesdays, we just moved it to 10 because, as someone pointed out, they were like, "Well, you know, at 11, you're competing with
on
Windows Weekly,"
so
and I was like,
I wanted to thank you.
It didn't even cross my mind, but you're so right. Like, I don't want to interfere.
Thank you.
You know, maybe that means more people show up on the live.
If you're into AI, that's the play, and you can watch that at youtube.com/Tech-sploder.
Yeah,
Tech-sploder.
Yeah, and then of course the podcast downloads. Yeah,
we miss you, Jason. So
thank
nice
you.
To see
I miss being here, and it's so weird being here and seeing like panels
torn
removed.
Up. Yeah, your set is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I took that home, actually.
You showed in pre-show, and
I took it home.
I'm honored. I think it looks really good, actually.
Thank you.
I think,
I'm happy
your
with
home
it.
studio setup looks awesome.
Yeah, well, we'll see. The new attic studio.
Yeah.
Also with us, Jason Snell. We wanted to have all in studio for our last,
it's great to be here.
Especially with our dear friends for the longest time.
You just got to keep your Jasons
next to each other.
All my Jasons are on the left.
over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep my Jasons on the left and my Alexes on the right. Jason, of course, sixcolors.com. You wrote actually a really good piece this week in Six Colors.
Thanks.
You were talking, of course, you did your color graphs of Apple's
always
quarter. They announced their quarterly results. They're usually weak third quarter on Thursday, and it was actually not a bad third quarter.
Yeah, it was a record for their fiscal third quarter. It was the most boring record quarter where you make $20+ billion in profit ever.
God.
But that's where Apple is these days.
But you did raise an interesting point, which is 24 billion of the revenue was services. And that's maybe a cause for concern. It's actually bigger than the Mac business, the iPad business, and the
wearables business is put together. Yeah, the product lines that aren't the iPhone. Yeah, I just had this moment. It's funny. Everybody reads into that article. I try to be really restrained because that's my thing. Everybody reads into it what they want. They can freak out and be like, oh God, Apple sold its soul. They can also read it and say, how dare you suggest that Apple would sell its soul? I did neither of those things. I just noticed that when you consider how much money they make from services, it goes up every single quarter. And you notice the profit margin on services, which is far more than it is on products.
It's like 72%.
For obvious reasons. Yeah, it's like in the 70s versus in the 30s, 40s. Apple's hardware margins are really good, by the way. They're very, very good. But services, essentially, you do it once.
It's hard to beat total profit.
It's almost pure profit. And for the Google search deal is pure profit,
and see,
essentially.
that's the key. And I think that's one of the things that's deceiving about services is a significant chunk of that is Google.
Yeah, and App Store 30% is another big chunk of it. We think of it as, and they encourage us to think of it as things like Apple TV Plus or Apple News Plus. But the truth is, iCloud, Apple Care is in there, but a lot of this is the Google search stuff.
Well, and it's by design. I mean, they've been pushing services because you can't keep on. I think they're right. There's at some point you saturate the world with iPhones.
Exactly, and they knew. And this started 7 or 8 years ago. They made their first target about services revenue, where they said we are going to double our services revenue in the next 3 years or something, and they beat that. That was an easy target. They knew they were going to beat it, but if they are trying to satisfy Wall Street, and Wall Street wants growth, and as you said, Alex, they know that even though the iPhone and the Mac and the iPad are still growing, but they're growing slowly. They're not going to grow at 20% again. Right. But services grows every year. And what I thought of this time is this is not a high quarter for iPhone sales. That'll come in the holiday quarter. Services keeps going up, and the disparity in profit margin means we're close. I did the math. We're not there yet, but we are the closest we've ever been to
graph.
Apple making more profit out of services than it does out of its hardware. And that is undoubtedly going to happen in the next year.
And again, I think that was completely by design.
Yes, absolutely. And I also don't think that it's Apple abandoning. I think the danger is that people at Apple stop keeping their eye on the ball in terms of hardware, because I do think that the services revenue stems entirely from the hardware. And if they're not successful selling their hardware, they're not going to have any success with their services. The tail needs to not wag the dog. I'm not saying the tail is wagging the dog right now. And there's some people who are like, how dare you say that? It's like, I'm not saying that.
Well,
I'm
the
just
iPhone
saying
is still a big part of their revenue.
The iPhone is an enormous part. I'm just saying it's an interesting thing to watch when Apple starts making more profit from its services than it does from the devices it sells.
Right.
Which will probably happen next year.
Right. And of course, this is a little preview of what's going to happen Tuesday on Mac Break Weekly. We'll go into this in greater detail. But I thought what's really interesting is to compare that with Intel's week, which has been the worst week since 1972, I think.
Well, it's a hard time to be Intel. I mean, with the excitement, I mean, with the M processors, Apple lit a fire under everyone to look at ARM. And so in addition to the challenges that Intel already had competing with AMD and everything else, ARM is a big piece of that challenge. Everyone's trying to move that direction, and so I think it really puts them under a lot of pressure. And for a decade, they've had trouble. The reason Apple moved to ARM, the reason Apple went to another chip manufacturer, was because Intel wasn't keeping up with the Joneses, wasn't continuing to upgrade at the speed that Apple felt like they needed to.
And then the double whammy is that Apple, by demonstrating how efficient a personal computer could be running on ARM, made Microsoft and everybody else who's on the PC side say,
left them no choice. And so literally left them no choice. They couldn't stay where they were.
Yeah. So instead of it being, oh, well, we lost a customer in Apple, but oh, well, it's like, wait a second. Everybody is introducing Qualcomm-based PCs now, and that's just that is the 2 in the 1-2 punch against Intel right now.
Has Intel had much of an AI presence in when I think about the major players in AI? I don't feel like I hear as much about Intel as I do the NVIDIA.
Well, a lot of times if you have an Intel processor, you have an NVIDIA card, and that is the focus.
It's better than having an NPU and an ARM chip, if you ask me. Yeah. The Intel though has absolutely absolutely. I mean, you can buy a PC right now with a Copilot. It's not a Copilot Plus PC, but it's got a Copilot button on it. In fact, I had one. It's an Intel Windows machine. So Intel has all of that capability built into it. But the number of problems were exacerbated by the fact that they have now a series of chips that are crashing and causing real problems. In fact, Patrick, didn't you say you have one of those i9s in your, was it you, Patrick? Somebody in our...
I have one.
Benito.
Yep.
So the 13 and 14 gen core processors have instability issues, and they've been crashing.
Well, it feels like Intel and Boeing are in the same space.
They're very much in the
large companies that have had a leadership for a long time.
Yeah.
Fortunately, Intel's only crashing computers, but I think that Boeing and Intel have the same problem of a lot of corporate bloat and a drive to continue to get profits, and basically not even moving fast, moving slow and breaking things, and not being able to really stay focused on producing great products, which at scale is very, very difficult with all the politics and all the layers and all the different folks with different priorities. As a company gets larger, Apple so far has done a relatively good job at managing that. But for a lot of companies, as you become that large corporate entity, it's very hard to continue to stay tight and produce a great product.
This is from Tom's Hardware. Intel is going to issue a microcode update in a week or two to address the crashing issues which cause PCs to crash or blue screen inexplicably during gaming and other workloads due to what Intel attributes to excessive voltage. But this is the big problem. And Benito, has this happened to you? The issue can cause permanent damage. The microcode update that they're putting out will not fix processors that are already suffering from crashing.
I've had crashes, but just application
not while
crashes,
gaming,
not like full on crashes.
So
mine's okay.
Then you'll have the microcode update, and with any luck, that will fix it, and you won't have to worry. Okay. Intel has extended the warranty on all boxed in. This is important because most people don't buy boxed Intel processors, but if you did, the warranty is now up to 5 years on the boxed Intel Core 13 or 14th gen processors. Most people buy it in a PC or as part of a kit. I think the motherboard manufacturer, the PC manufacturer will have to back you up on that one. It impacts all 65 watt and higher models. Anyway, that was devastating enough. Now, and then Intel announces they're going to lay off 15% of their workforce.
Yeah.
15,000 people.
Because 100,000 people worked at Intel. The math was easy.
Well done.
It's going to get a lot more complicated now.
It is.
That was an Intel processor.
I had a moment. It was like 15%, 15,000. I'm like, oh, well, that was easy.
I knew immediately.
Thank you to all journalists who didn't do well in math. Thank you for having us divide out of 100. That's really great. The shame of it is that I think in a lot of ways, Intel's management now gets it. But they are
Pat Gelsinger.
Yeah.
He rejiggered the company a couple of years ago, hoping to make it through this tough spot.
But they knew this was happening, and they're paying the price for years of mismanagement and also difficult circumstances. It's a real textbook innovator's dilemma, isn't it? Which is they're like, no. We know that we could make money and use other people's designs on our fabs, but no, it's not Intel. We're going to design our own chips and fab them ourselves, and that's our whole business model. And if they had changed sooner, they did have incredible skill at fabbing and could have turned themselves into these, fabs for other designers, and they just said no. And I get why they said no. That's why the innovator's dilemma is a dilemma. If it was easy, they would have just thrown caution to the wind.
And it happens to so many companies.
But they're a leader who falls by the wayside now because they couldn't change because they weren't motivated to change until it was too late.
Well, and I think that sometimes for big companies, it's a mixture of not wanting to give up the revenue from A to get to B. And, and that restructure is super scary. In addition to the fact that of just not sure whether B is really going to produce more than A, down the road. Like, this is pretty good right now.
I worked for a magazine publisher. You don't have to tell me. I mean, they're literally like, PC World prints money. Why would we ever do a website about computers? And they allowed CNET to exist at the start, and like that was the jig was up. And I get it. They're like, but we make so much money from magazine advertising. Why would we ever change? I'm like, well, because of the future. And they're like, I don't get paid in the future. I get paid today, and here we are.
I've told the story on MacBreak, I think, but I did a talk for publishers. I got brought in to speak at something or whatever, and it was 200 publishers in 2002, and I just said, you all have to get on the internet and take your subscribers and move them there right now. Like right now.
5 years ago,
and they literally laughed at me while I was talking. Like it was just one of those things. The only ones that didn't laugh, that came up and talked to me afterwards, was the New York Times.
It's not like Intel didn't see this coming. You can see it coming and still not be able to avoid it. That's the innovative dilemma.
That bill was going to come due.
Yeah. It's not like you can say, oh boy, I mean, look at Kodak. Oh boy, here comes digital.
But Kodak created the first digital cameras.
They sure did.
And then they buried it because they were afraid it would hit their film business. This gets into that common problem is, well, if we innovate in that direction, that could eat up something else, cannibalize something else. And I think that's one of the things that Apple does fairly well, is they're actually often willing to cannibalize their own businesses.
Right.
They're willing to just ditch them to go to the next thing. Almost at probably a speed almost faster than almost everybody else.
It's like classic. Steve Jobs had the best-selling music player, which was the iPod Mini, and they canceled it and replaced it with the iPod Nano because they knew that a flash-based player was going to win.
Right.
And so why not replace themselves? And that's it's a tough mindset to be in, though.
Yeah,
it's just really tough. And like I said, it's not the innovator's obvious answer. It is a dilemma because you do want to make your shareholders happy, and there's such a predisposition toward focusing on the present instead of the future. And Pat Gelsinger knew the bill was going to come due and is just trying to get them to where they need to be, but he's paying off the bills of people in the last 10 years of Intel.
And hope you didn't have Intel stock, because look at this loss. On Friday, they lost 26% of their value, down to $21 from $35 just a couple of days ago. That's bad. And it makes it hard to dig out of the hole. The story with Kodak was maybe more nuanced than that. I've heard economists say that the real problem was digital didn't have the profit margins that film and developing did. So even had they transitioned to film, to digital, they wouldn't have been able to maintain a business built on that kind of a profit margin.
But they were also way ahead. Like the thing
they
is,
were too early. Maybe.
No. I think that they could have had higher resolution cameras. They could have had higher performance. They could have been making products. They could have been selling memory cards. They could have been, again, the hard part for Kodak was you get into, you start getting people into digital. This is their issue was, you buy the memory card once. You don't buy film over and over and over again. That was their big, they were like, we can't have people able to just make images without buying film. It was a huge problem for them.
That's part of the delusion that you get in a corporate culture, though, where you believe that if you say no, the world stops.
Yeah.
And of course it doesn't. It's inevitable.
Right.
Change is inevitable. So you have to embrace it.
Right. This was the record industry's mantra. When piracy started to happen, everything. Their mantra was, I know we're dead. I just don't want it to be on my shift. And I just want to get through to retirement, and then I don't care what happens. And I think that's somewhat the attitude on these incumbents.
And when I was in the music industry, we were in the early 90s was the heyday. We never made more money than, the parties, even for alternative rock.
It's almost always that way, isn't it? Right?
Oh, it was so
You're
great.
at your peak.
But we were sitting there talking about, when we had meetings at Sony, we would be talking about the fact that we cannot keep on charging $17 a CD because the cassettes were 23 cents per unit for the cassettes and 44 cents per CD. So there was a 19 cent difference between the two of what it cost to actually produce them. But they were charging $6.99 for the cassettes and $17 for the CDs. And they were saying, well, it's because of the IP. We were like, the IP is the same. I mean, we were working there telling them, IP is the same. Why are you charging $11? But the
artists
answer
were
was
making one good song per record.
I know, but the issue is that the cassette that they were selling for $6.99, they were selling the exact same IP for $18 at Tower Records. And the reason that they would always say is because we can. People will pay that. And we said, but the problem is that people won't pay that forever, and they're going to be always looking for another alternative.
Yeah.
And back then we didn't even know that, this was going to happen, but we were like, eventually they're going to find another way to do this. And so then there was this band called Ned's Atomic Dustbin, and they had Godfather out, and it wasn't selling very well. And I remember we said, let's just do this for $7.99. Just do a special for $7.99. And they did it for $7.99 and sold like 50,000 units in like a week. Like it was just like this incredible surge. And we were like, see, And then they just went right back to
and the truth is, because you're taking me back to my high school years here, the truth
right.
is what would happen is one of your friends, or college too,
exactly.
one of your friends would get the CD and you'd tape copies for everybody else.
Yep.
Napster was
before there was Napster. That was what you did.
Steve Jobs comes along and says, the record industry didn't want to do it, but I'm going to sell singles for 99 cents.
Right.
And that was also a problem.
And he only was able to do that because Napster had happened. So he had leverage and he knew it.
Hindsight is 20/20. I mean, it's great. You can see the whole process with Kodak, with the music industry. Is that what's happening with Intel right now?
A little bit. I mean, it's slightly different, but the idea is that Intel had its things that it was good at, and it was, PCs and maybe servers and all of that. And this ARM stuff, it was for phones. It was for low.
Sneak up on them,
it was
though.
For low power. But this is the thing, though. It doesn't
They tried to do scale. Remember,
it doesn't sneak up on you, but it is hard to prioritize the thing that doesn't make you money if you're an executive. This is the problem with, I would say, a lot of industry is very few executives are provided incentives for the long term.
Right.
Very few. Right. They would change if you said, I'm going to pay you based on what the stock is in 5 years, not this year. In 5 years, you stock options, or what our profit is in 5 years or 7 years. And if we're dead in 7 years, you get nothing, no money. You owe us money. Everybody's attitude would be very different. But instead, it's sort of like, well, I just got to make my number this quarter.
Yeah.
I got to make my number this quarter. And if you think like that, you were going to make bad decisions, bad long-term decisions. Mm-hmm. And a lot of companies just run that way. Even if everybody knows, and I'll tell you, this is when we do pundit stuff on MacBreak Weekly, and there's always that moment where you're like, I can't believe Apple isn't doing this thing. And it's like, you can guarantee yourself that there are people inside all of these companies who know it. But the people at the highest levels have so much motivation to make their number, get their money, retire to their boat, and be gone, that this is why big companies make stupid decisions. This is why.
Well, and you just look at, I've worked as a consultant for many of these companies, and the thing is this just a series of meetings, and it slowly whittles away into nothing. Like, this person doesn't like this and that person doesn't like this, and you come up with an innovative idea, and by the time it comes out the other end, it's kind of been whittled down to this little thing that doesn't make any sense anymore. And it's just so easy, when you have that, when you don't have key people making decisions that have near dictator status over their little area, that can just make decisions and move forward. And that's one of the things Apple has had in the past. I think that they're still it's more challenging now than it used to have. They used to have a person that was making all the decisions, for all the major products. And I think that's always their challenge. But when you get into these committee, it's just death by committee, and everybody just keeps on,
what's going to keep Apple from falling into that hole?
I think that so far, they still are, I think, fairly vertical. I think there's not that many people making decisions. There's probably 10 people in there that are making most of the major decisions about products. Whether we agree with them or not is another thing. But I think that they're, and I think Apple is.
That's no protection.
No.
Pat Gelsinger may be the only person at Intel made decisions. I think that's not a protection at all, unless you think they're geniuses.
So the way that so when Steve Jobs came back, famously, Apple was about to go out of business. One of the things that he tried to do before he died was build something called Apple University. And the whole idea there was, what if we take people from business schools and build a curriculum that literally we are creating a curriculum of the corporate culture that Steve Jobs, have bestowed on Apple, because if we lose sight of this approach, we will fail. So it's very close to being the Ozymandias statue in the desert, right? Like it may not work, but he at least
was on my works.
And despair. But he was thinking, like, how do we keep this going? I need to build a machine to keep the culture going.
Every executive suite has that.
I know, right?
Question. What do we do? So the reason I bring this up is Warren Buffett seems to maybe have lost. He was a big believer in Apple. Big Berkshire Hathaway had a huge chunk of Apple. He's cut his stake by half.
It's growth. I think he even said he's got to provide growth for his investors. And the challenge with Apple right now is, where is the growth coming from? It's been a great ride with the iPhone, but I firmly believe that we're not going to see a product category like the smartphone again in our lifetimes, right?
It's not the Vision Pro.
It's nothing. It's not the Apple Watch. And there's nothing against the Apple Watch or the Vision Pro or anything like that. It's like the smartphone was unique and they got to ride it. They're one of two companies who really got to ride that thing, and good for them. But like, where does the growth come from now that's not 2% or 5%? Where's the 30% growth coming from? And other than services, it's a tough one to see. I don't think Apple is necessarily a growth stock, even though the execs want it to be.
Before this what we are in now, most blue chip stocks did not grow like tech stocks. Most of them were 3% or 5%. They were safe. They just kept on growing a little bit. They weren't growing a lot. And that's what we got used to. If you have a really big company, you put that in because it's safe, not because it's going to grow quickly. You invest in small companies. So the idea that you could invest in an Apple or an Nvidia or these fast growth companies, and they're massive and growing fast, is a very unusual thing if you look at the history of finances.
I thought Berkshire Hathaway was a value stock buyer. Right? I mean, look at See's Candy. That's not a growth stock.
Well, he's trying to find.
That's value, right? That's long-term value, and I think it's a sign. I don't know. I mean, they call him the Oracle of what is it? Des Moines? Where is it? I can't remember now.
Omaha.
Omaha.
Yeah,
there
Omaha.
You go. The Oracle of Omaha. But maybe the Oracle is seeing something in the future for Apple that isn't so rosy.
I think that they have a lot of challenges. I think managing. I mean, I still think that Apple's number one risk is antitrust, and and I think that that's going to continue to be a problem for them. Is that they are so big and they are still in many ways outperforming most of their competitors in a lot of places. It's very hard for them to stay out of that pool. And we can see it happening in the EU. We can see the United States hinting at it. We can see a lot of those things kind of going down that path. But that's going to be Apple trying to grow quickly and manage this issue where they get cut off at the knees all the time by governments is going to be a very big challenge for them.
If there's anywhere where I think what I wrote about Apple increasingly relying on profit of services will dramatically change and has dramatically changed their corporate behavior, it is in the way they react to regulation, right? Where it's like a dragon sitting on a hoard of gold, right? Where it's a different thing if you mostly make your money on hardware and there's a nice little side business in services, for a regulator to come in and say, well, actually, you can't be the only market for apps. You need to open that up. But if it's a huge portion of your profit, even if, yes, the Google thing, but that's under regulation too. That's under scrutiny as well. That's why Apple is so aggressive fighting regulation, I think, is because most of what they're being threatened by is not their hardware sales, it's their services.
And when you look at that, and when you look at their profits, they're making billions every quarter that something doesn't happen. So the thing is, them dragging this out for the next 5 years will make them $100 billion. Like, it's not like they're like, sure, I can just keep going. Like, I can just keep dragging this out.
At some point, though, you can't.
At some point they can.
But you have to do that calculation.
Are they where the record industry was in the 90s?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that the issue is that most people are pretty happy with the products that they have from Apple, the users. I don't know if that was the case. I mean, I think a lot of people, at least when I was growing up, really felt like the industry was taking advantage of you all the time. Like it's kind of like like when you see the antitrust in the United States with Apple, like none of the users really care. There's lots of companies that care and governments that care, but the users don't care. Like when you see Live Nation get hit with antitrust, like everybody other than Live Nation was like, burn them.
Yeah, everybody had an opinion. Because we've all been on the opposite
the users,
side.
like everyone's like just burn them to the ground. And so that's a very what you can see when. I think Apple's position is a little different, with their users.
Well, the iPhone is such an annuity, and it's hard. I wrote something a few months ago about how, like, imagining how Apple would fall apart. And it's like, as long as Apple keeps its eye on the ball for the iPhone, and the iPhone is always good, always solid, that iOS doesn't fall like so far behind in some area where people are demanding, and people are talking, AI is a threat, although I think it's overstated, and they're obviously on it. But like, if they can keep the iPhone reasonable, they're just going to be making enormous profits for probably decades to come. And the danger is they'll get comfortable, but I think that's their advantage over some of these industries that have had the train coming right at them, is they sort of have got some freedom just because the iPhone's going to be kicking back money for years to come. Yeah.
And what has the regulators looking at this really tightly is the number that I've brought up a couple times. 87% of kids under 18 using an iPhone. It's not that more people will change, it's that they won't. If they don't change, you have, that the percentage of Apple's iPhone usage over the next 20 years keeps going up because they just keep graduating and buying new phones. And so the thing is that there's this bulge that's happening at the sub 18 that means that Apple probably has some time, and all they have to do is keep on making the camera better. Like literally all of us just watch like, okay, what am I going to get more resolution? Am I going to get more frame rate? Am I going to get, like, right now, a lot of us are waiting to see if we get spatial 4K, like we're doing this one in spatial 2K. But spatial 4K is, and, higher resolution.
That's pointing, by the way, just, you gotta.
Yeah, that was a monkey
right at you. We're all pointing right at you.
Yeah.
So, but I think
there's
that's
one camera, which turns out to be an iPhone, that's shooting this in 3D, and that's what we're all
pointing at. Yeah.
Over there.
Apologies to those not watching.
Everybody watching is going, what are they
doing right there?
What's going on?
So anyway, but I think that's going to be, I do think that Apple has a lot of time. And I think that whether we agree with the Vision Pro, that is a company rolls out a Vision Pro because you were looking for the next iPhone, whether it is or not.
It's a hedge. That's why they did the car project too. It's a hedge against having, you've got all this money to burn, so burn some of it and maybe you'll find something. And
is there a history of companies that are loaded, very successful, finding the next thing? Or does the next thing usually come from an unexpected place, a garage?
There's not a great history with it, but it's why you see Apple, Google, Meta,
I understand.
Microsoft
They're
investing
scrambling to find
because
the next
they don't
want
to be the next, whatever it is.
They don't want to be left behind.
And I would say that Microsoft moving to the cloud was incredibly well done. And they were able to pivot into that market because they missed it at first, and
they saw Amazon. They saw Amazon
adding the cloud. They had a perfectly successful business selling us first books. And I remember when they started selling other things, I was like, why would Amazon sell anything other than books? They're really good at this one thing, and they're going to ruin everything by adding books. And now they're like delivering food from
for a long time. We were thinking Amazon is the best run company in the world. These guys are, Jeff Bezos is way ahead of the curve. He made that pivot to AWS. They never even thought it was going to make any money. Anyway, maybe that's not the case anymore. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Amazon's big bet that flopped, a big old belly flop. You're watching a very special edition of This Week in Tech, our last in studio edition. That's why it's got a monkey hanging on a pole. No, that's why it's in 3D. Because and this isn't the first time you did a 3D version. You brought in that $60,000.
Right, we had
camera. We did an
Ozo, a Nokia Ozo. We came in and did one years ago. Yeah, so I've been fiddling with.
Was that I think that was early on in this. That was 8 years ago when we first moved to the studio.
Yeah, it was very, very, very early in the studio. I think I also did it in the brick house too. I think it was kind of it was overlapping a little bit.
Well, folks, we're gonna go through some changes. The reason we're going through these changes is, frankly, economy. We're not as bad as Intel. I'm not laying off 15,000. But we had to cancel shows, as we know. We laid off Jason, and Aunt Pruitt's in the house too. It's great to see, or he was. Did he leave? He's there. Anyway, this is all a process of kind of adjusting to the headwinds, as Apple often says, of the podcast business. Closing the studio will save us at least $10,000 a month, if not more. If we can get out of the rent, it'll save us twice that. And that will make it possible for us to keep doing what we do. There is another thing that's happening. At the same time as we're cutting costs, we are trying to improve revenue with our club. And we want to invite you to join the club if you want to support us, keep the shows going, and keep my attic stocked in Shiva's Regal. You can, no. You can.
Well, party in the attic.
Party in the attic. I don't actually drink, so trust me, your money is not going to Shiva's Regal. All you have to do is go to twit.tv/clubtwit. $7 a month. We really love our community. We really appreciate those of you who've joined the club. You get ad-free versions of all the shows. and you help us kind of transition into I don't want to say stage 4, that sounds like cancer, into Twit 4.0. The future of Twit, I think, is going to be very different, and I think better. But with your help, we can get there. Twit.tv/ClubTwit, and we thank you in advance. We do have wonderful sponsors. I don't want to imply that we don't have some great sponsors, including ExpressVPN, which is more than a sponsor. It's the VPN I use. Going online without ExpressVPN would be a little bit like driving without car insurance. Hey, you might be a great driver, but with all the crazy people on the road these days, it's not up to you. Why would you take the risk? Look, everyone should have ExpressVPN. Every time you connect to an unencrypted network, whether it's in a hotel, an airport, a cafe, you're exposing your online data to any hacker on the same network. You can gain access to your system, steal your personal data, and a VPN protects against that. Doesn't even take much technical knowledge to do that kind of a hack. Just get yourself a Wi-Fi pineapple for $50? A smart 12-year-old can do it. Your data is valuable. Hackers know they can make about $1,000 a person selling personal info on the dark web. So you need to stop them. You need to nip them in the bud. ExpressVPN stops hackers from stealing your data by creating a secure encrypted tunnel between your device and the public internet. And here's the thing. The VPN that you use, the choice that you make is super important because they're getting all that data now. So you need to trust them. And that's why I love ExpressVPN. They go the extra mile to make sure your data is absolutely invisible. Every time you join ExpressVPN, you press that button in the app, in your iPhone, and your Android device, on your Mac, on your PC, on your Linux machine, even on your router. Every time you press that big button, you're spinning up a instance of ExpressVPN's trusted server. You're spinning up in RAM. It can't write to disk. And the minute you close it, it goes, and so does every trace of your visit. Absolutely zero tracking, and they go the extra mile to do that. And you can trust that they're doing that. They've had third parties audit trusted server. They say it does exactly what they say it does. It's so easy to use. It works so well. Oh, and they invest in their network. Look, it's not free. It's as little as $7 a month, but that's what you want. A free VPN. You're the product. So don't be the product. With ExpressVPN, they invest that money in more servers and high-quality internet connections so you can watch HD video from anywhere in the world. They rotate their IP addresses so it's harder to detect you're on a VPN. Every time you visit a site, you're on an address that is not associated with you and has been rotated through, so it often isn't even associated with ExpressVPN. #1 rating from top tech reviewers like CNET and The Verge. This is the only VPN I use or recommend. In fact, when I travel, it's a great boon, because I can still catch the football game and the F1 race. Secure your online data today. Visit expressvpn.com/twit. EXPRESS. expressvpn.com/twit. An extra 3 months free when you buy a year. That brings it down to below $7 a month. That's a great deal for the best VPN in the business. expressvpn.com/twit. And we're very grateful to ExpressVPN. They've been a sponsor of ours for many, many years and have supported us very nicely. Thank you, ExpressVPN. On we go. Jason Howell is here. It's great to welcome you back into the studio.
Thank you.
You may take that fez if you wish. You have a fez.
I do have a fez.
Anybody doesn't have a fez?
I got a fez.
It turns out, do you need a fez, Gary? It turns out I had a treasure trove of fezzes. I have... It's like they're like tribbles. They're multiplying in the attic. I don't know what I'm going to do.
I'm going to try to grab one of them because I have a fez, but I had it years and years ago.
You have a ratty
It's
fez.
gone through a couple moves.
You need a fresh fez.
You sent us all fezzes.
Yes,
last
I
time.
did. Right here.
I have.
Mine just got moved
The red
a couple
ones,
times.
I believe
the
black
ones.
Oh, was it the black ones?
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a black one. I have a red one.
Well, you don't need another fez.
You can create a mosaic on your wall of fezzes, Leo.
I have so many hats. I don't know. And I thought I got rid of most of them, and they're multiplying. Anyway, we're glad to have you. We appreciate your support, Jason, and wish you all the best. I'm glad you're doing well with AI Inside and the Tech Exploder.
Keep myself busier than I think I've been in a very, very, very long time.
YouTube.com/@TechExploder.
That's right.
Of course, Jason Snell, longtime friend of the show.
Oh, a friend of the show. I love being a friend of the show.
FOTS. You're a FOTS.
It's good. It's good.
Sixcolors.com.
Occasional fill-in host.
Yes. In fact, you're going to fill in for me in a couple of weeks.
I think so.
In September. I'm going on vacation.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
I'm going to take all my fezzes with me and throw them into the ocean. It's going to be a little fez
And if they
burial.
come back to you, then what?
Then I know I have no future. It's a fezzes forever. Also, Alex Lindsay, who I've probably known longer than I've been doing Twit. Actually, both of you guys were on Tech TV.
Tech TV,
with me.
yeah.
On Call for Help. So you both predate even this network. It's great to have you.
I remember that I had there was someone that was in Pixel Core in our training, and they worked at Tech TV.
Oh, nice.
And he said, "Have you heard of Tech TV?" And I don't watch TV, so I don't have it. I was like,
this is in 1999.
They gave me a VHS of screensavers, and so I had to watch it to kind of get a sense of like what I was going to do.
What's going to happen?
I was very nervous. I talked really fast because I had way too much to say.
You did Photoshop tips in the early days.
I think the very first one was projection mapping, matte painting.
I do remember you putting using magic marker to put.
I still have those
dots on my head.
We did a little photogrammetry. That was photogrammetry back before it was
back in the day.
Before you wave your phone.
Before, you just literally open your camera on your phone. And
there were no smartphones. We were still on Blackberries and things back in that.
Trios.
Oh yeah, those were the days.
Pilots. Trio. I found I still have a Trio. Like I found it in the garage. I was spelunking for something else, and in some box there was, there's my Trio.
Like in this
the last phone I had.
Transition, every time we move studios, we have to lose stuff. We had 10,000 square feet of basement in the old place. And everybody in the world would remember this, Jason? They'd bring us their old computers. We had many. So we had to go.
Ship it in. I mean,
they'd ship us there like, my dad died.
He left
the entire Commodore 128.
I would have dozens of Macs and multiple runs of Macworld magazine if I had accepted all the people who asked. And it's like,
surely you want Macworld magazine.
I live in a very small house.
Yeah.
No, I don't. And I do have some old Macs, but not that many. And it's
do I wish I had the space to store it all?
Sure,
yes, I do.
But am I going to get a storage locker? No, I'm not.
So there was a great culling when we moved to the brick house. There's been now we have culled again. And I don't know.
Moving clarifies things, doesn't it?
Yeah, because I just...
sometimes...
the attic is 400 square feet. I went from 25,000 square feet to 400. There's not a lot that made it on in the transition.
My parents...
That's for Leo.
Oh, this is for Leo. My parents lived on 45 acres with 3 barns and a house.
Oh.
And they moved into a motorhome.
Yeah, there you go.
So
I think it's
2 dumpsters.
A good thing. This is apparently... Remember
playbook,
BlackBerry... Right? Yeah, the playbook.
Oh, man.
BlackBerry briefly had a tablet.
I regret so much that I sent back the HP WebOS tablet that they
that was
sent
that
me.
WebOS was nice.
It was so slow, but it was good.
They blew it with WebOS.
It was good,
I
but
have one of those.
slow.
I still have WebOS on my LG OLED. Runs WebOS.
I kind of wish I still had the BlackBerry Storm that they sent me. I had to do I did this demo of the Storm, and when I watched the BlackBerry the BlackBerry movie, when he was having trouble with it at the end with the Storm,
the Storm.
I was like, oh, that was my life. That was my life.
That was when the whole screen clicked.
Yeah, the whole screen clicked, and I was like, and I was in Brazil doing it as a demo for Verizon or something like that, and I was like doing this thing, and I was like, I can't get this to work, and I made them promise. I just like, I don't have to recommend this thing. I just have to show me using it. I don't have to recommend it or say anything because I use an iPhone, but I'm sitting there doing this thing and just going, I can't make the buttons work. And so anyway, it was when I saw BlackBerry, I was just like, oh my gosh, that was so true. Like, just
that was a great movie. I really enjoyed it.
I looked at that movie. I waited for months, going, how can that be a good movie? Like, how can that be a compelling movie?
Well, also 100% goofy. It looked like it was really goofy, but it was really well done.
It was like Ford versus Ferrari for me. Like, I was like, when both of those, I waited for months, going, I don't think I'm really going to enjoy that. And both of them were killer.
You see the Tetris movie?
I love the Tetris.
I thought that was really fun.
That's my favorite one.
I enjoyed that one.
Like, how do you make
it's ridiculous,
Tetris,
but great.
How do you make Tetris exciting? And they did.
Turns out there's a lot of backstory.
There was a lot of good backstory. And it was really well produced, really well shot.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah.
Were there car chases? Probably not. But who cares? I don't care.
It's take the reality and turn it up 25%.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Amp it up a little bit. Put it in volumetric.
Oh, man. Yeah. Come on, Apple. Make a 3D version of the Tetris movie now.
I'm really interested to see, we see these little tastes of content that they throw into the Apple Vision Pro. I feel like they're very they've been really underperforming as far as how much content they're putting up. I feel like they must be shooting a lot, and we're just not seeing it come out the other end. Or they're keeping the powder dry for some reason. But but I feel like what would be really good is just show behind the scenes. Like the easiest way to do this is put spatial cameras when you're shooting something and
so funny. Apple is so
feel like we're there.
They even put the spatial cameras that they use at the NBA All-Star game in a box, so you couldn't see how they were doing it.
Because it may not be a publicly available camera.
Yeah, but now they're doing more of that. I think there's some new content dropping this week. They did a pre-announcement, but I agree. It is one.
I saw the pre-announcement. There's a couple new things, and I was like, okay, well, that's
great.
Like 10 extra
mysteries
seconds.
is why they haven't got a more solid content plan for what is, I think everybody would agree, the hands down most interesting thing about the Vision Pro is that immersive experience, and yet
there's a couple shots. Like in all of the immersive stuff, there's a handful of shots. Like there's the rhino shot where the rhino walks up to you and you're like, and like it's the one moment where you just go, and then you're like, oh, I'm in a headset. But it was like the only time. I mean, there's a few shots like that, but not very many. And like then they did the parkour thing in Paris, and I was like, okay, this is like a snoozer.
That was more like, are you afraid of heights? Well,
yeah, I think that is.
Leo's he's waving the white flag.
Okay. You might have a rhino, but I got a monkey.
Yeah.
See, I told you that was going to happen.
Down. There is a monkey down.
Guaranteed to happen at some
Monkey
point.
down. All right. Well,
it's three-dimensional show. This.
Yeah, that is a puzzle. You would think that Apple, given that they spent so much
don't know
money.
What's going on there? It's weird.
I'm excited to see what happens if the Blackmagic camera comes out and can do most of what people say it's going to do. It's going to be an explosion of content.
Is there any way for us to know how many people are watching this on a Vision Pro?
I can try to find out.
Have a number.
I can try to find out. I don't think it's a giant number, but we'll see. We'll see what we can.
If it's more than a dozen, I'd be interested.
Oh, it's definitely more than a dozen because I know a dozen people that are pinging me.
2 dozen.
Okay. Yeah, it's 2 dozen.
Okay.
When does this Blackmagic camera
so that's like
come
half
out?
The Vision Pro.
They've said by the end of the year.
And why do you think that Blackmagic could do like I guess when I think of Apple getting into the Vision Pro, I looked at that and I was like, all right, many have tried. They've all had very limited success. Apple is going to get at least some energy behind it.
Well, the difference with the Blackmagic camera is I've been doing 360 and immersive for of some version, still or video, for almost 20 years. So I've watched this, or more than 20 years. And so you've watched, I was part of early teams that were working on Nokia's, Ozo products and Facebook's products and Google's products. And so I've worked on a lot of these things over, and the big problem that we have is how hard it is to produce content.
Sure.
So to produce stereo immersive content turns out to be really hard, and it's expensive and it's complicated. And so that's why I got a lot of work doing it, because when I had those Ozo cameras, I was the only one that had production cameras that could actually you could put into a switcher or you could run through a router. That was the big thing about the Ozo cameras, is that we could just run them into an SDI router and everything would work, right? So that was as close to production as we had and kept us busy. The big thing that Apple and Blackmagic are working on together is a camera that's really built for that headset, and so what it's able to do is high frame rate. So the rumor is, I think Apple said 90 frames a second is what they're shooting for, because and it's not quite enough, but it's very close.
Right.
When you go over in the mid 90s, 92 to 96 frames a second, your brain flips and it starts thinking about this as a window and not as video. So that part of getting that frame rate up is a big deal. And the second thing is 8K per eye. So Blackmagic showed a big 17K sensor at NAB, and if you take that and you turn that into 8K per eye, 90 frame per second, that is not something that anybody buying a commercial headset has seen. I've had a chance to see footage that looks like that, and it's a completely different experience. And so when you get to that higher frame rate and you get to that higher resolution, which the headset's capable of, when everyone says, oh, the headset's way overbuilt, it's because it was built for something that hasn't arrived yet. So the thing is that footage, when that footage starts coming out, and I think Apple's done a little bit of that, but they're playing it really safe. I think that when everybody's got a camera and they start shooting sports and other events, and we've shot, with the Ozos, we were shooting 4K per eye stereo at like NBA basketball games, and it was a very watchable experience. At 8K per eye at 90 frames a second, it'll be an entirely different experience.
I would love to see that. Yeah.
So, and then the question we want to do it live. I don't know if that'll be possible. I don't know if the camera I think has 4 Ethernet's out the back. And if that's the
But
case,
we're doing this live, right? Why can't?
doing 8K per eye at 90 frames a second is 100 megs a second. Like it's over 100 megs a second compressed.
I would say, and this goes back to the puzzlement part, is that I appreciate, because you've talked about this a lot, that we are on the verge of having something that feels like reality, and that will be amazing. I would really love for Apple, and I can't believe they haven't done this yet, and may not all this season. I would be happy if they just did a fairly low resolution, low frame rate stereo experiment at a ballpark on Friday night for Major League Baseball or at an MLS game to try, like, what is the sports experience like? And the fact that we're a year in.
The hard part with sports is that 3D cameras are not great in really large venues. So where
3D effect is wonderful when it's close.
It's like, so your 3D effect, like in this camera, so the interaxial distance of this camera is about 4 times too close.
Yeah, right.
So you really have 4 to 10 feet of real 3D-ish, by really from that camera to the end of that table is all the 3D you're going to get. Mm-hmm. Now, at a standard interaxial distance, you'll double that. You'll have like about 8 to 20 feet is like you're gonna see more of it. The problem is that these cameras, because the resolution hasn't been high enough, because it hasn't been 8 or 12K per eye, it just gets soft. It's soft, and you're there, but it's soft. Now, where it does make a difference is watching a judo match or MMA or boxing or other things like that. That looks amazing. And that's where you should put those cameras.
I'd like to be behind home plate, though. I think that might be interesting, but
and we should do it. I mean, we should take this camera or something else. There's when the season's, it's not something that can't be done.
I'm surprised that they haven't experimented, or maybe what you're saying is true, which they have experimented and they're not happy with.
Well, I think the problem is like MLS, they show it where they're putting it above the net, which puts that camera, by the way, at a lot of risk, like of losing the camera or the lenses. But and that's what we found is the only place we could put spatial cameras for football or soccer or whatever you want to call it is that you have to put them right by the net and you have to capture those. But it's not good to watch the whole game that way. It's really better to watch highlights. Right. In a large venue, it's highlights are better. And then, Meta has experimented a lot with concerts, but the problem you end up with concerts is they want to put it at a venue where there's actually a concert going on, and that's like the worst because the camera wants to be right in front and center. And you want to be able to give it where it wants to be just the right experience for the online audience. The problem is that's right in front of everybody that's there. Right. And so you have to make a decision about who. I shot. I was up here streaming from this phone. We did dengue fever was playing at Lagunitas, and we shot it at an angle. And for a handful of shots, it was a really impressive experience. As a concert. But it's hard to get that working without all the tools. And so I think that's the part that Apple still has to figure out.
So we have hundreds of people who are watching right now on the various streaming networks, YouTube, Twitch, Fast Company, Facebook, LinkedIn. I don't know. I'm probably leaving a few out, Discord. If you're watching right now and you have a Vision Pro and you didn't get the message, what should they do right now? They go to streamvoodoo.com and get the app. You have to get in the beta.
Yeah, it would be hard to do it now. It's
probably too late.
Like that's why we were kind of pushing it for the last week of going up there because I think that it's hard to get.
And there's no way we can save what we're doing here and then make it available.
We are.
We're going to do that.
Yeah, we're saving it.
So good. That's the good news. We're saving it. We don't know what we're going to do with it. It might end up where everything else I've saved in.
A digital library. It's all being saved on the server. So assuming my connection is good, and this is an Ethernet connection, it should.
So we're saving it, and with any luck, maybe you can donate it back to the 100%. Archives, and we'll put it up. Yeah. Is there any way to convert it so that people with a Meta Quest or something can see it?
Yes. It'll take some time.
Okay.
Convert to like a side-by-side or something?
Yeah, we can convert it to side-by-side. It's just that we have to download it. Right now it's in chunks. They went up in HLS. So it's in HLS chunks. So that all has to get brought back down. The advantage of it is that the post version, if you have that link, we'll send the link. We'll put the link somewhere at least into the Twit.
We'll post it. Yeah.
And you can watch the VOD very quickly. The downside of that, it takes a little time to bring it down. So especially one this long.
So stay tuned. If you didn't get the memo and you aren't watching on Stream Voodoo now on your Vision Pros, it's too late. But stay tuned because we'll figure out a way, possibly, that you can watch it.
And it'll be like your you're right in the studio
Be
with
like
us.
you're right
So
here.
the next time you watch an episode of Twit from the studio, you can pretend. Wait. No.
Oh, God. Too soon?
You didn't have to say that.
Too soon.
Let's take a break and then back to the tech news. Sorry for that little Vision Pro interlude. Our show today brought to you by Bitwarden, the password manager, my favorite open source password manager that can dramatically improve your chances of staying safe online. It's open source, which I think is really important for any crypto product. And if that's what a password manager it is. A password manager creates new, long, strong, unmemorable passwords for you, but then remembers them so you don't have to, and stores them in a secure way so only you can access them. Bitwarden does this better than anybody else, and especially for businesses. Listen up, business leaders. Bitwarden has just announced its new collections management settings. It's kind of a kind of permission settings. It lets owners choose how much or how little access admins have to everything in the vault. So there's the owner of the vault and there's admins. The settings can be set so that users can create and delete their own collections where admins can't see inside, which is really kind of double-layered privacy. It's great for the policy of least privilege, for example. Another possible setup could maybe get full admin control for everything. You get to choose is the point. With these new settings and a new can manage permission, you can choose how access control and sharing works in your Bitwarden organization. Bitwarden's great for enterprises. It's also great for developers. Their secrets tool means you won't be posting your API keys and secrets on your GitHub repository anymore. It'll keep those secure. And for individuals, there's none better. That's how I use it. I actually give them $10 a month because I just want to support them. But for free and free forever, you get unlimited passwords on unlimited devices. Every device you've got, Mac, Windows, Linux, iOS, Android. You can even use YubiKeys, and it supports passkeys. So you get all of that for free forever. So for enterprises, for developers, for individuals, it's the way, Bitwarden, to safely store and share sensitive data. And because it has a transparent, open source approach to password management, Bitwarden makes it easy for users to extend robust security practices to all their online experiences. And if you've got I know you use a password manager because you're smart, but if you've got a family member who's been saying, it's too complicated, too hard, too expensive, now you've got an answer. It's free, it's easy. Mom, you got to use it. Get started with Bitwarden's free trial of a Teams or Enterprise plan, or get started for free across all devices as an individual user. Bitwarden.com/twit. That's bitwarden.com/twit. It's what I use, what Steve Gibson uses. It's the only way to go. So we mentioned that Amazon...
I have an update.
Yes.
787 people.
Hey, that's pretty good.
That's like half the Vision Pros out there.
Yeah.
It's more than 24.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good number because that's about maybe roughly in there with the total number of viewers we usually get on live streams.
Yeah.
So that's really good.
Yeah.
Most people, and we should just explain, it's only about 10% of our audience even watches live. So that really has driven a larger audience. That's great. Welcome.
No pressure.
To all of you.
It's as if there was some desire among Vision Pro users for content.
Yeah.
And
proving your point, huh?
yeah, I mean, that's,
Gary, why have you taken your Vision Pro off?
because
Oh. So you never did
Makes
get you never got it working? Oh. Well, the best way to see it 3D is to actually come here. But that's not going to happen.
Or to wear it and then record a video of us on the Vision Pro.
which is actually
Ooh.
more 3D because the
More
interaxial
3D.
distance
Is
is
it
wider.
wider, yeah.
It's
more like
just
eyes.
a weird square. Like it's
Yeah.
Oh, is it really? That's not 16:9 when you...
No.
and the square-ish aspect ratio is actually pretty good on a Vision Pro. Like one of the things I noticed when I was watching the IMAX app was that 143 whatever is actually a better format for the Vision Pro than 16:9 or 235 because you actually see more of what your aperture is there. But it's like 1:1, so it feels very square-ish and it's low resolution out of the headset. So it's not a great Yeah, not a great experience.
I apologize. I asked another Vision Pro question.
What do you see? What do you know?
That's what happens.
We keep talking about Vision Pro.
I just answered the question. That's all there was.
No, I know it was my fault. It's not your fault, I promise. Amazon. We were talking about how brilliant Jeff Bezos was, but Andy Jassy, his successor, maybe, I don't know, not so brilliant. Amazon actually was under Bezos, right? Paid $1 billion in 2014 to acquire Twitch.
Jassy.
But Jassy is about to, I think, I don't know. He has led a profitability review at the company and has shown little tolerance for unprofitable businesses, according to the Wall Street Journal. Insiders say they worry Twitch is at the risk of becoming what's called a zombie brand at Amazon. Internal projects or acquisitions that have been sidelined, not killed, just sidelined because they haven't lived up to expectations. Goodreads is an example. Woot is an example. See, we would have a Woot monkey that actually screamed when it flies if Amazon had
a viable battery.
Well, the Alexa hardware, the Echo hardware,
they've
has
lost $25 billion.
Billions and billions of dollars on it. And the more they try to make profits by turning it into a commercial, pushing product, the fewer people want it.
How can you not make money on Twitch?
Yeah, it does make you wonder, right?
I can tell you why.
It's expensive.
So average view time. So the problem with Twitch is that you get these average view times that are 7-8 hours long. Like a lot of people on YouTube, like average view time on YouTube is like 6.5 minutes on a live event. And average view time on Twitch is it can get up into the 2.5-3 hour range.
That's sitting there watching the same channel because it's a let's play
average person. Someone's watching because they do this.
Right,
so they have this.
Yeah.
So the problem is that they have too few people or a certain number of people watching for a very long time, and that's very expensive, which is why Twitch is constantly trying to find ways to offload that to you. So like, for instance, instead of doing transcoding, they're letting you now can use an NVIDIA card and you can do you can build your own ladder. They're trying to do all these things to kind of offload the overhead because the revenue doesn't line up with the product, and the thing is that live, like YouTube is the best at live. But it's such a small percentage of their revenue. It's such a small percentage of what people do that it's like this rounding. I mean, still.
So the mistake
millions and millions
was
of dollars
focusing on live for Twitch.
It's the fact that Twitch is all live. I mean, it really isn't a VOD.
Even when
there was a real
It's
opportunity there for them to be a direct YouTube competitor across the board, especially with their built-in gaming audience. And instead, they sort of just leaned into live.
Well, and the other issue is that they can't get out of the gaming world. Like they've been trying to get other products in there. They've been trying.
We're on Twitch right now. Hello, Twitch.
But they haven't been able to get. And the problem is the culture is so game driven that you open it up. If you open up chat in Twitch, it is a disaster.
Yeah, it is.
And so the issue is that they just can't. It's just that culture.
That's what I was going to say. It's actually really brilliant.
Yeah.
If you're in it, but having so my friend Mike Hurley did a bunch of Twitch streams for like mechanical keyboard kind of stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was a guest a couple of times, but there is a very specific chat room culture on Twitch, and
we're seeing it right now.
It's brilliantly done. It really is brilliantly done.
Yeah.
But if you don't get it, if you're not in it, there's a real learning curve.
Yes.
And so it's got the advantages and disadvantages. If you're in the club, it's awesome. If you're an outsider, it's
Discord. The story of Discord as well.
Yeah.
Of a lot of.
I think that it's not. I don't know if it's I don't think Discord's quite the same because it really depends on every culture is different when you go to Discord. Like our culture in office hours is very different than other. I'm on like 25 Discord servers and ours is very different than everybody else's. And because the average age in our Discord is probably in the mid-40s.
All I know is we have 88 people watching us on Twitch right now, and there are 46,900 people watching Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege.
Sure.
And the problem is they're watching. There's 46,000 people that are going to watch that for hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
are they being served ads continuously or just at the beginning? You know what I mean? Like how are they?
Twitch is very aggressive at inserting ads in the live streams. I think.
But the
unless
question is, do you have
pay-
enough inventory,
Right.
to basically sell into that
to support
because if you're
hours
doing
upon hours.
again, if you're doing 1080p at 60 frames a second, so most gamers are also running a higher frame rate, so they want to play at 60 frames a second. So they're at 60 frames a second, 1080p.
Lot of
you're looking
data.
like at least 10 megs a second for every single person. And it doesn't, like,
So
and
it's
3 cents a gig or 2 cents a gig. So it's like for every 100 people, it costs you 2 cents every minute, or every, or
It's expensive.
Or every
Super
couple
expensive.
minutes. Anyway, so the thing is that if you have thousands of them, that's costing them hundreds or thousands of dollars for that one stream. And can they actually have the revenue to pay that off? And so far they haven't.
So there's 50,000 people watching the Rainbow Six Siege stream. 50,000 people, and you said it's somebody do the math. It's 2 cents a minute per
2
viewer.
cents a gig. So it's
A
2
gig's
cents a
an
gig.
hour,
And so
probably.
no, but if you're doing the math it's in bits. So that's a gigabyte, and you're doing bits. So it's a little bit. There's the 1/8 rule that has to get put in there. So if they're doing,
You should be able to monetize that, and I guess that's part of the challenge, right? Is that they haven't.
They charge
right.
$12 for the ad free a month.
Right.
That can't
For the
possibly
user.
That can't cover the user's the cost if you're
if the users are watching all the time, if the
Devoted
users aren't
user
watching
watching.
very much,
Yeah.
totally, it'll cover it.
They're
If
watching 5 hours a day.
I mean, it's hard to, because you can't keep on going
That
back
adds
to the
up.
well. I mean, but I have to say that, like, as a YouTube premium user, I can't imagine, like, I change my credit card and suddenly I forget to update.
Oh,
YouTube.
it's the worst.
And you're like, what happened?
yeah,
like,
yeah.
how do I? What is going on here? This is horrible. And
Twitch gets millions of visitors a day. It's just the business model that doesn't work. And Benito used to work there, our producer. Is this all ring a bell, Benito?
Yeah, that's all. Everything that everybody said is true.
Yeah.
It's a good product.
Good product.
Not a great
Yeah.
business.
Enabling tens of, this is
maybe
the journal,
Amazon's the wrong
enabling
company.
tens
Well, yeah,
of thousands of simultaneous live streams is expensive. And the company has had to invest in tools to moderate the content. Insider says the content itself poses challenges, as the long-form live video doesn't align well with selling ads. Yeah, you can't promise an advertiser
Right.
that they're going to have a happy, wonderful place to hang.
Ad blockers also really kill them, and
yeah.
and everybody
Yeah, of
on
course.
Twitch uses an ad blocker.
So what's interesting is people have been trying to use ad blockers on YouTube, and every time it works for a while, it gets Google kills it.
I also
right?
get the sense that Twitch is very successful for Twitch streamers.
the streamers love
The
it.
challenge is the intermediary and how do
Right.
they make money and
Right.
how does that work?
Being the
Because
middleman
Twitch-
is no good in this case.
This is tough, but I do wonder if Amazon was the right partner for this, just in terms
Well,
of
yeah.
what they're good at.
Right. What would Amazon need to do to make it profitable? And I suppose that they could have done anything. They've
VOD.
probably done it in the last 10 years.
Well, they had to have done VOD, and they had to have started a while ago. The problem is that YouTube can just lean into them.
Yeah,
You know,
for
like
sure.
there's just like YouTube. This is such a small part of their revenue, and what happens is that for YouTube, live is a great thing because what it does is your shorts increase reach. So how many people know that your channel exists? Your VODs are where you make all the money, where you get all the views, and where you get subscribers. And the live builds a connection between the creator and the subscribers. But the live isn't where they're making money or where they're getting lots of viewership. It's where they're taking their core audience and building a relationship with them. But it's rarely a massive number. Like someone has like 200,000 followers may get a $18 million view VOD, but they've got plenty of YouTube has plenty of real estate to sell into that, right? Or they have plenty of inventory to push into that. The problem is that the live for YouTube, they're like, whatever. Like they can, it's not. I'm sure someone watching YouTube is saying no, that's not the way we think of it. But a lot of that live and their infrastructure is just so massive because they're doing
Yes.
YouTube TV pays for the infrastructure at a level that is hard. Like that, it's so massive. Like when people go, well, they got 100,000 people watching, a live stream. Is it going to come down because YouTube it's going to be too big for YouTube? And like YouTube's doing 30 million streams, I think, at any given time, like 30 million individual streams.
YouTube also benefits from Twitch because everyone on Twitch, because there are no VODs on Twitch, everyone puts their VODs on YouTube. So
That's
YouTube
right.
is there too.
So all the live just drives more into YouTube.
More traffic to YouTube.
Yeah.
So would an independent owner of Twitch, like what then would they have to do? I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, like, at this state of the game, like, Twitch is a brand that's very recognizable, obviously has a lot of people that want to use it for these live streams, but it's obviously not a great business the way it is right now. If Amazon isn't the right company to make the change to make it a viable business, could an independent?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I don't think they have I think they have a business model that's great for the users and great for the creators, and there is no version of that product that will ever be profitable or significantly profitable, because the problem is that the culture is so embedded into the way it is because people who watch games block ads, and because gamers do really long videos, and because there's a whole bunch of things that are baked into that culture that unless you're going to use it as a loss leader for another product, that's the way you do it. You have to have Amazon,
Microsoft, Sony,
or Amazon figuring out a way to sell products into it, or a way to get like closer to click-through rates straight to straight to the Amazon store. Those kinds of things. Like if you figured out a way to make and do it what I call a Kaiser Soze model, which is what it pays everyone more than the job was worth. And you have to figure out what is that other indirect angle that you're going to generate revenue from. And I don't think that Amazon has figured that out.
The big problem too is that one way they could solve this is by changing their pricing structure, but YouTube's existence means if you mess it up too bad, they'll just all go to YouTube, and that'll be the end of Twitch. So they're kind of trapped.
Yeah, and they have. YouTube has a higher quality stream. It is from the pure, like, what does the video look like? YouTube is more stable. They can do 4K 60. They can do like lots of things that are really at a level that Twitch can't afford to do. And YouTube is available in Korea, South Korea.
Yeah,
which Twitch had to turn off.
They just had to turn it off. This is almost an obituary in the Wall Street Journal, among other things. Yeah, it's pretty serious. Among other things, they say that Twitch has not ever been profitable since Amazon acquired them.
It's hard because you look at something and go, well, there's so many people and they love it so much. This has got to be a good business here, and they just haven't found.
It just shows common sense does not necessarily mean good business.
The tech,
it looks great,
The tech industry business model of let's give it away for free and then figure out how to make money.
Right.
What we don't talk about, like YouTube did that, right? Like we don't talk about, well, what if it doesn't ever make money?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And I think that YouTube made money because Google had AdWords in a way that it could run. Like without that, I think YouTube would have had a hard time.
Well, one of the problems, of course, YouTube has faced is with ad blocking as well. Maybe Google hopes to fix this. They've announced now that Chrome will, when it moves to Manifest v3, no longer allow uBlock. Well, uBlock Origin just won't work. Raymond Gorhill, who's the lead developer and maintainer, on Friday said because of the support for MV3, UBO is a Manifest v2 extension, hence the warning in your Google Chrome browser. There is no Manifest v3 version of uBlock Origin. This is, by the way, easily the number one ad blocker out there. Hence, the browser will suggest alternative extensions as a replace for UBO, Gorhill explained. He does offer UBO Lite, uBlock Origin Lite, a pared down version with the best effort at converting filter lists used by UBO into a Manifest v3 compliant approach. This is with a focus on reliability and efficiency. Obviously Google doesn't like ad blockers. Google's an ad business. Plus YouTube has been in a war with people running ad blockers. It's interesting that you say almost everybody who watches Twitch uses an ad blocker, Benito. It's kind of an interesting issue. I'm a big uBlock Origin fan. I'm just going to use Firefox.
Yeah,
that's my answer.
Firefox.
Google has been doing a number of things that are kind of counter to support its ad business and kind of counter the interests of its users, including deciding this week not to block third-party cookies, which they announced they were going to do. They say it's because of the EU. But really, I think Google wants you to see ads, and they don't want you to block them.
Well, it's their business. Like Google has a lot of other hobbies But
this is their business.
AdWords is their business.
Yeah.
Like AdWords and display
You
ads.
almost could say search is a hobby.
But that is, I mean, anytime you see Google like spending money on things, like it is an entirely different world when they start talking about ads. And when you sit in one of their like trainings on AdWords and so on and so forth, I mean, the data that they have and everything else is like looking into the sun. Like it is an amazing product. And all they have to do is keep people from blocking it too much. It's not 100%. It's just keep making it uncomfortable.
They were trying to balance it. That was the idea of getting rid of third-party cookies, replacing it with Topics, which was a little bit more privacy forward. Steve Gibson thought Topics was a good solution.
But I think that the thing is that like Twitch, the nature of who watches Twitch, they're far more technologically advanced.
Yes, for sure.
So much higher percentage of them are, because they're building their own PCs and they're doing they're very technical. Whereas there's a huge percentage of YouTube that is just, average people who want to watch something that's funny or interesting or whatever, and they don't know as much. I think that the ad blocking it's a much smaller, I'm not saying it's a small percentage, but it's a much smaller percentage on
Last
YouTube.
I saw almost half of all
right.
internet traffic people using ad blockers. It's a huge number. It's surprisingly large percentage of users use ad blockers. Do you use an ad blocker?
Yeah.
Of course you do. Do you use an ad blocker? Of course you do. You use an ad blocker? You don't?
I don't have anything that I see ads on very much. Like I just don't have.
Oh, you must have a pie hole or something.
No, I just don't see a lot of ads.
You don't go to websites.
And
what's funny is I don't go to that many. I have a handful of websites that I go to, and then I have a lot of apps, and I read news and listen to news, but I just don't bounce around a lot.
I think, and I pay for a lot of content on the internet, so I don't feel bad about it at all.
too.
But there are sites especially where it's a complete, especially if you're on mobile,
It's unusable.
it's a complete sundering of the relationship between the audience and the business, where it's sort of like you will give me content and I will see your ads, and there's like a really nice medium to be found there. And at some point, most of these websites just dumped as much garbage into their site as possible in order to try
supported. 6 Colors is ad supported.
we have
right?
we have a sponsor every week, as well as
you do first party ads. That's one of the things that's a little
there's
different.
I have no ad network and
There's
no
no
ad
ad
server
network and no tech.
It's just my content.
So an ad blocker in fact does not block it.
I think it depends on what I named the div in the HTML, but like I also have a thank you post at the end of the week, and there's an RSS item, so it's very hard not to see that. But again, I don't have a problem with seeing some ads. It's when it becomes abusive and you're like, I can't even
dangerous. And I think there's also malware,
and there's all the details of violations of privacy and. Yeah.
And I think that for me, what happens is I don't really block the ads. I just go, oh, that website has a lot of ads.
You don't even
go there.
I just don't.
I mean,
I just don't go back. I'm like, okay, well, that's not a website for me.
I do custom blocking too. Like there are elements, like there is a site network that I'm not going to name, but they added an element where mid-article there would be a comment from their comment section, and it would just be inserted as if it was content, but it was garbage. And I did a custom blocker for that. I have my ad blocker turns off all website comments. I don't want to see them, right? So it's not just ads, it's intrusive content. And thank goodness for reader modes. Reader modes help a lot too. So
that was one of the reasons uBlock Origin was so popular, is because it was infinitely configurable.
Yeah.
And really worked very well. A good question is whether browsers that rely on Chromium will also be moving to MV3. And if they will, then that means they won't support uBlock Origin and other ad blockers, not just uBlock Origin, going forward. We'll see. We're in interesting times. And then there's the artist and musician who is suing the SEC over NFT regulatory jurisdiction. This is from Decrypt.co. 5 years ago, Brian Fry set an elaborate trap. Now the law professor is teaming up with a singer-songwriter to finally spring it on the SEC in a novel lawsuit, and in the process prevent the regulator from ever coming after NFT art projects. Again, the complaint is that the SEC has been selective in its prosecution of NFT projects as unregistered securities. They haven't really defined what the rules are.
Well, I think this might have been opened up by the Supreme Court too. This lawsuit, where the Supreme Court started to pull back on the ability for regulators to regulate. Where the Congress, this is a place that's pretty gray, and Congress probably didn't write something explicit for this, and the SEC is interpreting laws, which is what the Supreme Court has pushed back on. So it's probably affected the timing.
Also, this is friend of the show, Jonathan Mann, who is the musical artist in question.
Yes, Song a Day
Man.
Yeah.
And he wrote a song before
This
they were
song
even
is a
called
security.
NFTs, where he was basically, the idea was, he said, great, digital collectibles, this is a way for me as an artist to make money, because he is coupled together making a living out of doing these songs every day. And full disclosure, I've had him make a couple of songs for me that I got to use in my projects and were songs of the day. Right. And he's the guy makes earworms. It's amazing. But so this has been a perfect setup.
He's been doing it for 17 years.
For this law professor to use him as an example of why his song is not a security.
So Fry 5 years ago minted an NFT of a letter he sent to the SEC in which he declared his art project to constitute an illegal, unregistered security. And he challenged the agency, if it's not a security, you need to say so. The SEC never responded. Of course not. They didn't know what the hell to do with it. And so he did it again and again. So then 10 months ago, Jonathan Mann created a song called This Song is a Security. Can I play it?
Let's find out.
We have two strikes already.
He's a friend of the show.
I know.
So. You're already on 2 strikes, so I might be.
I don't know if I better.
You can find it. It's just out there.
Oh, I'm looking at it on YouTube.
So people can
This
play
song
it
is
for
a
themselves.
security. It's song a day number 5,369.
I think one thing that this gets at is there are lots of things that there are no rules for that the SEC thinks are shifty, right? And they're like, well, the SEC, I get their motivation. Their motivation is, this feels like fraud. This feels bad. So we're going to do something about it. And there's a question of like, do they have such a broad latitude? And so Matt Levine, who is a fantastic writer at Bloomberg, has a great column. He has a newsletter you can sign up for. The funniest, dry business world column you will ever find called Money Stuff. He has a catchphrase, which is, everything is securities fraud.
Right.
And
it's just whether the SEC decides.
Exactly. And this strikes me as being very much that, which is, if the SEC thinks it's securities fraud, I guess it's securities fraud because everything is. But I think it goes to them wanting to have this latitude. And we've seen it with some recent court rulings that we may be entering an era in the US where, unless it is very specifically stated that something is not allowed, it is allowed.
Well, and again, that's what the Supreme Court said, is basically these agencies can't keep on making up rules. Which the agencies need to be able to keep on making up rules,
right, because Congress can't be that specific.
These guys barely know how to use email, and now we're asking them to figure out like how to do all this stuff, and so it's like, it's very complicated. Yeah. So like, I think the problem is that Congress doesn't know how to do that. Then they can't decide on anything, and then the agencies aren't allowed to do anything. So it does feel like it's going to be a little bit of a wild west.
But this is your other side of it, which is for financial issues. It's very serious. There's a lot of scammers out there. People want their money to be protected. Totally get that the SEC are the cops. They're on the case. But the downside of that is, if you want to, you can sort of claim that almost anything in the world is securities fraud, including Jonathan Mann's songs, maybe. So it's an interesting idea.
Yeah. It has started for Mann when actress Mila Kunis created an NFT-based cartoon series you might remember called Stoner Cats.
Classic.
And to watch Stoner Cats, you had to buy an NFT, right? Depended on revenue from NFT sales. The SEC went after her, and in fact, ultimately got a $1 million settlement. The SEC, they paid $1 million to the SEC without admitting wrongdoing, but the suit virtually killed the project, as well as another NFT-powered series Mila Kunis was up to. And that made Jonathan Mann really mad. So he wrote that day, because he's doing a song a day.
Every day.
This song is a security. And now he is suing in Louisiana, along with Fry, who's acting as his lawyer, the SEC. The lawsuit filed earlier this week challenged the SEC's standing even though the SEC, by the way, ignored both Fry and Mann. They didn't pursue it, but it's one of those suits where it's kind of a preemptive lawsuit. They challenged the SEC's standing to regulate their NFT-based artworks as securities, demanded the agency declare those artworks do not constitute illegal unregistered security offerings. Kind of flipping the tables, say, well, okay, tell us. The SEC has declined to comment.
Well, and again, I think that this is the Chevron difference that's now gone.
Right.
And without the Chevron difference, that you're not going to, the SEC is going to have a hard time. Because it's not like they're right now they have a court. I think the timing of this lawsuit most likely was connected to the fact that the door has been opened to sue a regulatory commission and saying you don't have the power to do this.
Mann has already written a sequel to This Song is a Security called, of course, I'm Suing the SEC.
Of course.
Catchy little ditty.
I think he should. I think he could put in parentheses, "This is not a love song."
he came to our attention because he did a song about Antenna Gate. Hey, remember Antenna Gate?
iPhone
and it was
4?
very much a like, if you don't like it, just take your phone back kind of. It was a very pro Apple kind of thing, and they played it. And Steve Jobs was sort of like dancing to it as it came out on stage, and that was how we all met Jonathan Mann back in the day.
Actually, his stuff is great.
It's great.
This helps promote Jonathan Mann. Yeah, I'm all for it.
5,695 songs.
Yeah,
so far.
Yeah,
that's
impressive. I paid for 3 of those.
That's impressive.
Yes. He writes, "They came for stoner cats. This is my response."
Yep.
I guess he really likes stoner cats. Let's take a break. You're watching a special edition of This Week in Tech. Special for a variety of reasons. Everybody's in studio, great friends of the show, longtime friends. We're doing it in 3D. Is that proper to say 3D?
Spatial.
It's a spatial episode.
It's spatial.
Yeah.
Stereo video. I think you could say 3D, but 3D could mean a lot.
It's
of
not
things.
really 3D. It's spatial.
Yeah, I'm trying not to over answer because you keep on saying
Stereo.
that. Like I can answer a lot.
You're opening the
I can spend the next 10 minutes explaining the difference between 3D and spatial. Like I'm just pulling back.
At some point between now and the end of the show, we're going to do the Harlem Shake and break this desk.
We really should. This desk is never going to... It's over for this desk.
It's not over until...
No, I have 2 more shoes to do it.
This is a beautiful, adjustable
We made
desk.
this. We had this built at great expense. John, how much did this desk cost? Do we know? He left?
So much.
John? No, he's gone.
know.
He's gone. All right.
Who's taking the desk?
How much would you pay for a desk that could do
would
this?
Would it fit in my office? Maybe.
You can have it if you want.
Oh, interesting.
Do you think
Really?
my
You
wife
should
would
take it.
Do you think my wife would be offended if I brought this into the bedroom where my upstairs podcast studio is?
I feel like I need to measure
honey,
it
it raises
now that
up
you
on
said
its
that. I was
own.
like, I should
don't
measure.
know if it'll fit in my office.
It might fit
It's
in my
a
office.
really
space
big
for
desk.
this thing.
I feel like we spent 10 grand on this. How much did we spend, John? I don't know. We don't know. He doesn't know. I didn't buy it. No, I bought it. And I didn't even want to know.
Let's get some
I could
measurements.
ask Lisa. She would know.
But this Alex and I we'll think about it.
We'll think about it. One of us should end up with this desk.
Yeah, if it
Good.
fits.
It would make me
If it
happy.
fits, I would use it.
Yeah.
Okay. It would make me, you guys can fight over it.
All right.
It would make me very, very happy.
Can't have it till Thursday.
Yeah, no, you can't have it till Thursday. Oh, yeah,
You'd have to
Wednesday.
rent a
The last show
U-Haul.
is Twig.
I'd have to rebuild my whole office to fit it, but I'm tempted.
Yeah. Same.
It's worth, I couldn't fit it in my
You're like
attic,
8
that's
feet
for sure.
wide.
I have
Yeah. Get out the measurement.
I
tape.
have a
sorry, Leo.
72-inch.
We're not trying to steal all your stuff.
No,
while you're
you
still
wish
on
you
the air.
would. I hate. You know, does anybody want an AM radio transmitter? Because that thing, I don't. How much? 5,000. It's a bargain.
Wow.
So, did that include the up and down thing, or that's just the top?
Pirate radio.
A couple $100 for the up and down thing.
Only a couple hundred for the up and down thing.
I have an up and down thing in my new attic studio, so I can do stand up.
Those aren't very up and down. I mean, everybody.
It's not a big deal. That one, it's cool because we put the cameras and the lights and everything on the desk. So when it goes up, everything goes up. When it goes down, everything goes down.
When we had this insert studio, and we had motorized the table by the end. We had motorized the table, the TV, and the chair. And so someone would sit down. Oh, and we had like a little manual thing for the camera. But when they walked in, you see all the stuff kind of moving around while we figure out exactly, like what is the perfect position for everybody. It was a good flex. I would recommend it.
This was always a challenge when Aunt Pruitt was here because he has massive thighs.
Yeah.
And so we could only, you're tall, so we could only lower the table.
I mean, my legs are like pressed up agast the bottom
mine
of the table.
aren't. I got lots of room.
Yeah.
But when Ant's here, like the desk has to be like 6 inches higher. Somebody's asking, am I giving everything away? Yeah, because I've already got pretty much everything I want from here. There's a few things. But I don't know what we're going to do with it. What else are you going to do with it? We were saying that the 12th we were going to have people in and everybody could take something. We've changed that date. So please don't come to the studio on the 12th. Do you know what the new date is, Patrick? Did Lisa share it with you? She says we're still going to be around, so we're going to wait a little longer. We've got a liquidator coming who's apparently sells what they can and throws what they can't.
I'm voting for after the 19th because I'll be out of town.
Yeah, I think it'll be after the 19th. You want the bronze strip? Somebody, Rod Pyle says, oh, Rod. Hi, Rod. You want the bronze strip? Okay.
It's not a bronze strip. That's a whole table.
It's all attached.
You have to take the whole thing.
We took this from the brick house.
Uh-huh.
Now, the fun thing is that gear was a two-sided gear in the brick house because you could see it on either side. You know, when you're in the lobby, you see one side. When you're in the studio, you see the other side. But there's only one side on this one. So I've taken the other side, and I have that in my office. It's rather large. It takes up a whole wall. It's sad when you kind of take everything apart. But it's okay because it's a new model. And I think podcasting needs to be refreshed a little bit. Now
you've been doing well at home for a long time.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, you like it?
I absolutely do. It's great. I just find myself saying, could I get a larger desk? I don't know.
I know. I'm thinking. It's about a little over 7 feet wide.
We'll figure it out.
Wide.
It's big.
Yeah.
My new one at home is
I have
only
a 6
6 feet
in my
wide.
house. In my house,
it's only 6 feet. So.
Yeah.
And again, there is a very nice AM radio transmitter that only weighs a couple of tons. If anybody would like that, I don't know what to do with that. I think the chances are good that will be in this building until the day the building is torn down. It's not going to be easily
It's like a
moved.
safe.
Does it
like a
work?
safe.
Yeah.
Are you broadcasting in AM?
It is. If you're a ham, you can use it on the 70 meter band, which is an AM band. Mm-hmm. And if you have a ham license, I think you might have to have a advanced license to use it. You can use it for ham radio transmission.
Or pirate radio.
I'm
just thinking, I just put it in my house. I'm on a hill. Put it in the house, just turn it on, and Nevada is going to have its own radio station.
But it comes from a Sioux City AM, a day timer. I think it was 1,000 watts AM. And it was Mike Duro, who is very famous for his meters. He sells meters to radio stations and broadcasters. Mike Duro has, as a side hobby, he goes to old AM stations as they're decommissioning their transmitters. Says, "I'll take it," and then he fixes it up. It's like a car, like an old car.
Mike Duro did that.
Yeah, I should actually.
His meters are amazing.
If I can get a hold of Mike Duro, I will offer it back to him because he gave us a sweetheart deal to have this in the studio. But then he delivered it. That was the sweetheart part of the deal. Our show, and that's, by the way, that's a mail sorting desk. So if you have some mails you want to sort, you can do it at that desk right there. The chair swivels and everything.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know where we got that. Our show today brought to you by ZipRecruiter. When we hire, it's almost always in a panic because somebody's given notice and we've got to replace them. And if we don't replace them in a timely fashion, like 2 weeks, we're going to double our workload. The whole thing's going to fall apart. It's hard, especially nowadays, because it's kind of a seller's market, right? Finding great candidates to hire can be like trying to find a needle in a haystack. You get too many resumes, but not enough candidates with the right skills or experience. And then if they're really good, you're vying with a bunch of other companies trying to hire them. That's why I love ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter finds amazing candidates for you fast. And when they find them, you can invite them to apply, which, by the way, puts you right to the head of the list. I don't care where they're applying. If you want to say, hey, you know what? I really like your resume. I think you'd be a great fit with our company. I can guarantee you they're going to follow through. Right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/twit. ZipRecruiter's smart technology identifies top talent for your roles quickly. I mean, literally, immediately after you post your job, ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology starts showing you qualified people for it. So when we use it, I mean, within an hour or two, we start seeing qualified candidates. It's amazing. Ditch the other hiring sites. Let ZipRecruiter find what you're looking for, the needle in the haystack. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/twit. That's ZipRecruiter.com/TWIT. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. We thank them so much for supporting This Week in Tech. Congress did it this week. They passed KOSA and COPA 2 by 91-3. This was a bill that I think a lot of people in tech opposed. I certainly was against it. Many of our hosts have been against it. Shoshana Weissman, who works for R Street, wrote a really good piece on why KOSA is impracticable. The Kids Online Safety Act. I mean, look, the goals are admirable to protect kids in social media, but the way they do it is perhaps problematic. KOSA is, I'm reading from The Verge, a landmark piece of legislation that a persistent group of parent advocates played a key role in pushing forward. The parents say a bill like KOSA could have saved their kids from suffering. I hope it'll do the same for other kids. It says that online platforms have a duty of care when they're being used by minors, requiring they take reasonable measures without defining what that is to design their products to mitigate a list of harms, including online bullying, sexual exploitation, drug promotion, and eating disorders. It says if the bill it specifies the bill doesn't prevent platforms from letting minors search for any specific content or providing resources to mitigate any of the listed harms. But there is also the issue of who's a child and who's not. And that means this will require age verification
for everything,
for everybody on everything.
Yeah.
And we know age verification is a privacy nightmare. Marsha Blackburn has justified the bill on the basis that, quote, we should be protecting minor children from the transgender in this culture, whatever the transgender is. The bill was somewhat amended in response to concerns of the LGBTQ plus community. The revisions got the GLAAD and the Trevor Project to drop their opposition, but there's still considerable concern. It got a 91-3 vote in the Senate because I think...
Did it pass the House? I thought
it hasn't. It has gone to the House. I don't know what's going to happen in the House.
I don't think it hasn't passed yet.
Yeah, but when you pass 91-3 in the Senate, it feels like that's
give you a good feeling,
strong bipartisan support for this. But the right and the left support it for different reasons. Obviously, Marsha Blackburn doesn't want. She wants to protect children from seeing anything about transgender. The duty of care is the most controversial, but KOSA contains a host of other provisions. They require safeguards for kids on the internet, preventing unknown adults from communicating with kids or viewing their personal data. That's fine with me. Restricting the ability, but again, you have to know who's a kid and who's an adult. Mm-hmm. Restricting the ability to share minors' geolocation data, letting the accounts of children opt out of personalized recommendations, or at least limit recommendation categories. Platforms would also need to default kids' accounts to the strictest level of privacy settings and make it easy to delete their personal data and limit the time they spend on the service. COPA 2 raises the age of the 1998 children's privacy law from under 13 to under 17, because 16-year-olds are just as vulnerable, I guess. Ed Markey and Ron Wyden and Rand Paul voted against it. They were the 3 senators were Ron Wyden, Rand Paul, and Mike Lee of Utah.
And we'll see. I mean, what happened in the last time is it looked like it was going to go through, and then everyone suddenly realized that it might go through, and then a bunch of people called their congressman, and then the congressman go, whoa.
Well, now it's up to the House.
Yep.
They have.
That's what I'm saying.
Unfortunately, they just left on an August recess.
Well, that's unfortunate for them because now there's time.
Now there's plenty of time
the problem
to
is
mobilize.
It kind of felt like we were so caught up with all the Trump insanity and all the change of the who's running and everything else that no one was noticing, and they were like, "Hey, let's move this through right now." Like, while no one's paying attention, but now people have time to pay attention. So it'll be interesting to see if it goes.
NetChoice will probably sue again. They represent Google, Meta, and other big tech platforms, and they have sued in the past on First Amendment grounds. The Verge also points out KOSA will have to contend with that recent Supreme Court decision where the majority said content moderation and curation are protected forms of expression, protected by the First Amendment.
I think I think that they can pass this. Number one is because the Republican controlled House doesn't have to even bring it to the floor.
Right.
So it's a real safe bet. If you go, hey, everybody, we're not going to let it actually go through.
Vote,
then it's
so
like a free.
Don't worry.
It's like a free vote for a lot of people to vote for that.
Right.
The other side of that is, that the Supreme
But you
Court,
think that's why it passed 91-3 because they knew it couldn't get through that.
I think it's not going to get through the House. So I think that there's and who knows? I mean, this is random, but I think that knowing that it's not going to go through the House is a free pass for the Senate to just let it roll through. Everyone gets to vote on child protection. Right. And then the other side of that is that a lot of this is free because the chances of the Supreme Court upholding these measures is low.
It's interesting. It's not a guarantee that this would even pass if they wanted to. First off, no politician is going to, when prompted, vote against something that's going to protect the kids. Protect the kids. Yeah. How do you vote against that? It's very hard to go into the details of but it doesn't, because it's going to make you look bad when you're running for office and all that. However, recently the Senate passed the House passed a bipartisan bill for the advanced child tax credit. And the Senate was like, no, and put it off. And that was a bipartisan bill from one house, from one branch of government, or not branch, one legislative body to the other, where the other one said no, even though it was bipartisan. So there is recent precedent for the House to basically be like, no, or as Alex pointed out, even better, what? Huh? Oh, we must have missed that one.
Or yes, and now we're going to change a whole bunch of things, right? And now it goes
it's unwinnable.
So there's still a long way to getting these passed. It was interesting that we just didn't see the fire from a lot of the tech companies that we saw in the past. You always feel like something's amiss when there wasn't. When there was not a lot of flag. They might have killed it.
I think maybe the tech companies think this is not an argument they want to have in public, and that maybe they can save their powder on this one. But the EFF is out there, the ACLU is out there, and behind the scenes they may be saying to their friends in the House, no, this is not, or like, look, if this is what we have to do, like, we're the incumbents, we're doing okay, we'll deal with this. But yeah, it's funny that they didn't come out
on Thursday. I missed this.
Kill it.
The House Republican leadership decided not to bring up KOSA.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, there you go.
There we go. It's already
bipartisan support. They said, well, you did it to the child tax credit, so we'll do it to your child.
Well, that kind of stuff happens all the time.
The kids lose on both fronts, I guess.
Poor kids. Mike Masnick writes in Tech Dirk, broken clocks may be accidentally correct twice a day, and sometimes those broken clocks save the internet. The House GOP has killed KOSA over unclear concerns about the version of KOSA that was approved earlier this week.
Yeah. It actually is possible that they did it because they made those amendments about the details about LGBTQ content, and they're like, oh no, we want that in there.
Yes,
so
you nailed it.
And again, it lets both sides do virtue signaling.
Yeah,
both sides get to have their cake and eat it too. Yeah. They both get to say that we were against this because, or we were for this for it, and neither of them actually have to create a law. So, I mean, here's the sausage being made in public.
Right. And credit to Rand Paul, who wrote, and Mike Masnick points this out, a very clear, direct letter about the problems with the bill, presented in a nonpartisan, non-culture war fashion that was persuasive, apparently.
Yeah.
Good. Whew, that you dodged a bullet. The Senate did approve the Intelligence Authorization Act, which mandates pen testing for federally certified voting machines. This is something people have been looking for and asking for a long time.
I think we need to go back to the big booths. Like, I think this whole like none of this electronic, I think it's big. Most people don't remember them, but some of us
with levers. You want levers?
Big levers. No hanging chads. No nothing. Just like levers. There's a certain level of theater that came with the big booths.
Right. There is an argument.
I think you should have to dip your finger in ink after you vote.
I'm there.
Yeah.
There is an argument about the fact that now that we have electronic voting machines with paper trails.
That's the key.
And this just happened in Venezuela, right? Where the incumbent said, oh, no, I won. And then everybody looked at the printouts and said, there's no way that you won. 2/3 of the people voted against you in all the places where we could get the printouts. And you hid them in other places where you suspiciously won by a lot. Like, that was a great example of what people have been saying in this country all along, which is electronic voting is fine, but you got to have
without
a paper trail.
It's insanity.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. So this is good. It's funny because this is a situation where you've got one of the two parties in the U.S. insists that there was voter fraud, even though there is no evidence to support that at all. But it makes it hard for them to be against trying to protect against voter fraud.
Right.
So
it's got to pass, baby. Okay. We'll fix it.
Let's do it.
Yep. This is good. This is good. You may remember a couple of years ago at DEF CON or Black Hat, I think it was Black Hat, they had the voting machine. They had all the voting machines, and they brought the hackers in, and
That's right.
they were all
Wide open.
It was wide open. It was a terrible mess. Easy to hack. You also may have read a little bit about a big prisoner swap earlier this week. Very good news for the Americans who were held in Russia. But you should probably know that the two of the Russian nationals who were returned to Russia were notorious for cyber crimes.
They now join the other 50,000 that are already there.
Yeah, it's just more,
these are the ones we get our hooks into, and they were good negotiating.
I think it was worth it to get Paul Whelan and Evan Gershkovich
100%.
back. And you're right. I mean, there's plenty of other people to replace them in Russia.
Yeah.
Roman Seleznev was known for running extensive cybercrime operations, credit card fraud, theft, selling stolen credit card information on Carter.su, which is a cybercriminal forum ring. This is from Cyberscoop. Zeleznev conducted his criminal activities under the alias Track2 and Nkux. He is, it turns out, the son of Valery Seleznev, a prominent member of the Russian Duma, the parliament. He was sentenced to 27 years in prison back in 2017 for a massive credit card computer fraud scheme, extradited to the U.S. He netted $93 million. Oh, no, this is now the other one, whose name was...
if we just started extraditing everybody to Saudi Arabia...
Yeah,
this would all go.
You don't
much
have to worry about
faster.
prisoner
There'd be a whole lot of,
exchanges.
we can give you back
There's
the
nobody
prisoners.
left.
Well, I can give back the prisoners. They're
Vladislav-
just going to type a lot slower.
Vladislav Kolyushin was extradited to the U.S. For his involvement in an elaborate hack-to-trade scheme that netted approximately $93 million through security trades based on stolen confidential corporate information. They would break into networks, steal the information, and then use it to trade.
Got to get those guys out of prison. Got to get them back.
You know
to
what?
work.
At least they're non-violent criminals. I mean, one of the guys who got sent back from Germany was an assassin.
It's true. And then the people who posed as Argentinian art dealers in Slovenia, which was like the real life version of the Americans, except I guess the Argentines.
Yeah, they were like deep moles.
Their kids
right?
didn't speak
kids
Russian and didn't know who Putin was.
Putin gave him a big kiss and spoke to them in
Spanish because the kids didn't know Russian.
Wow.
Apparently they were very bad at their jobs, though. That was the thing, is that everybody's like, who are these people? And their art gallery was really bogus. And they're like, is this some sort of scam? And then they did a thing at Edinburgh Fringe. I think she did an art thing.
Oh, really?
And the British, apparently that was enough to get the British intelligence to investigate
not
them.
talented.
And they're like, this is not.
She must be a
And
mole.
that's when they got picked up by the Slovenian authorities.
I just think it's amazing that the kids didn't know until they're. I mean, it's the most.
No, it's the
It's straight out of
Americans.
the Americans.
It's totally the Americans.
Yeah.
Like we were just like the kids didn't know until they got on the plane. It was like kids.
Do you think there are a lot of sleeper agents in the United States?
Well, so what this story said was that after Russia invaded Ukraine, there were a lot of these on the books spies, essentially, who are diplomats, but everybody knows they're spies, who were sent back to Russia by the Western countries. They're like, get out of here.
Come on.
As a response to
Come
that.
on, you're not a
what that did
attaché.
though was activate the sleeper agents because they needed somebody to coordinate. And the suggestion there is it's still hurt Russia in the sense that the sleeper agents aren't that good at their jobs.
I've been sleeping. What do you want? Don't wake me up.
But yeah, so it sounds like Putin, according to the story I read, Putin really loves sleeper agents because he's a lifelong KGB guy. So he's like, oh, yes, get me more sleepers. Yes.
So good.
They take so long. Like the investment in a sleeper agent is
enormous.
I mean, we all watch The Americans, so we all know exactly how this all works.
Yeah, that's right. Wigs.
You know, like
lots of wigs.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of wigs. Glasses, big square glasses.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are very useful. Yeah,
if people haven't seen The Americans, you got to watch it. It's one of the great shows.
Such a great show.
And it's a great concept, the sleeper agent. I think we've gotten a lot of mileage.
And they got married.
It is. And it was based on a true...
the real actors got married.
Yeah, it was based on a true story. But my understanding is, again, in this story that I read today, my understanding is that the sleeper agents in real life not as good as the ones in The Americans. Like literally, they described one of them as, he said he was from Philadelphia, but he looked like Yeltsin and spoke with a thick Russian accent. Like, no, I am from Philadelphia. Yes. Oh yeah, okay, sure. Go Eagles.
Squirtle. U.S. border agents, at least at JFK, must get a warrant before searching your cell phone. That's good news. Mm-hmm. In fact, for the longest time, the CBP has thought that it's completely legal for them to search every cell phone if they want.
I had one that I had them search my cell phone one time, but I kind of expected it. I had flown to Rome and then Ethiopia, then Nigeria, then back to Rome, then to Iraq, then to Turkey, and then to Brussels.
What were you doing? Shows? Are you a sleeper agent?
No, I was doing shows. I was doing lots of work. It was all different shows, all different continents. When I came back, I had a burner phone that had like a good Facebook account, nothing on it.
Oh, you're smart.
And everything else. And so what they don't ask you for is all your phones. They just ask you for your phone and you go, sure.
Do they make you unlock it?
Yeah. And I unlocked it. There's nothing
Alex.
to
see. Fortunately, Alex has been to the White House, so we know that he can't be a sleeper agent or he would have struck.
I got the A badge. I got the A badge.
So
if you get a B badge, they're like,
I slap you.
Yeah, sleeper agent. If you're in the White House, just take care of it right then.
Yeah, what else, right? That's what you were there for.
Yahtzee, right? Like, good to go for
Yahtzee.
it.
That would be Yahtzee. Like, I gotta say, I've had enough interactions with the Secret Service that I would never try anything like that. Like, they are pretty decisive.
You're not a sleeper
and
agent.
Don't shout Yahtzee when you do it either. That's a dead giveaway.
You got to say it right before you do it.
Yahtzee. Although to be fair, maybe not with the Secret Service so much. Who knows?
These days, maybe not.
I'm from Butler.
Are you really?
Yeah, so I grew up outside of Butler. My dad's law firm is in Butler.
I knew you're from PA, but I didn't know Butler is your...
My two older kids live a mile from that site.
Wow.
And I was like, I can see kind of why they relaxed because Butler's like the reddest county in Pennsylvania. So you kind of be like, like what could possibly go wrong? And there was complaints ahead of time that, there were complaints from both the campaign and Secret Service that like, hey, we don't have enough money. Like we don't have enough people, not enough resources. And so they were offloading some of the resources and everything else. But it seems like it's insane that you would not, that roof is so close.
Yeah.
Like it seems like somebody just thought that the stage was going to be somewhere else or something else. Like it just felt like that's like, I don't even understand like how that, because it's not a long shot. As a country boy, I can tell you it's not a long shot.
It's like a lot of our stories about tech failures. Invariably what happens is it's a chain
cascading failure
of small failures that lead to an enormous failure because that's always what it is. It's very rarely CrowdStrike, right? I mean it really is. It's mostly this person didn't say something.
Even CrowdStrike was kind of a cascading failure because the people who wrote the tests didn't bother to tell.
There was just one big cascade there at the end of the process. But that's what happens. It's the unknowns where it's just like you can't anticipate a very small chain of negative events that leads to a disastrous outcome.
Yeah.
Let me take a little break. We have still much more to talk about. It's such a great group. And perhaps we can discuss how the Vision Pro works.
I'm going to warn everybody that
no, stay, everybody, stay. Don't run away.
If you're in your Vision Pro, I'm going to warn you that during this commercial break, I'm going to I'm going to take my phone out of its case, which means everything's going to rock around for a little bit. So I'm just warning you ahead of time.
Are you going to
Because
reposition?
It's overheating. We think it's overheating because it's in a case.
We dropping frames?
And we're dropping some frames. And we think that it's just my phone. It's not the service.
So everybody in a Vision Pro, close your eyes.
Brace yourself.
Brace yourself.
I'm just letting you know.
Brace
if it's a
everybody.
really big screen and we start moving it may hurt.
Put your head between your knees.
If you're not watching the 3D version, relax.
Yeah. You can just enjoy.
Yeah.
You see, another reason not to have a Vision Pro. While Alex adjusts the image, let me tell you about something I have been using. I started using this maybe 10, 15 years ago and used to love it. Experts Exchange. Remember that? Did you ever use that, Patrick? God, I loved Experts Exchange. Real people you could go to and ask questions, and they would give you great answers. I don't know why I fell off. I guess there were other companies doing something similar, but there was never anything quite as good as EE. Oh, and I know the other thing was that they started to charge a lot of money for it, and I couldn't afford it. I got to tell you, EE never went anywhere, and now more than ever, you need Experts Exchange, a network of trustworthy, talented tech professionals. You can get industry insights, you can get advice from people actually using the products in your stack. Instead of, and by the way, a lot cheaper than getting expensive enterprise level tech support, and a lot better. And nicer too, by the way. As the tech community for people tired of the AI sellout, Expert Exchange is ready to help you and everybody else carry the fight for the future of human intelligence. Experts Exchange gives you access to professionals in over 400 different fields, including programming, Microsoft, AWS, DevOps, and on and on and on. Everything you want to know. Unlike other places, duplicate questions are encouraged. You know, how many times have you asked a question at one of those other places and they actually shut it down saying, that's too stupid? Or we've answered that a bunch of times. Never on Experts Exchange. Their contributors are tech junkies who actually love graciously answering all questions. One member said, quote, I've never had GPT stop and ask me a question before. That happens on EE all the time. Experts Exchange is proudly committed to fostering a community where human collaboration is fundamental. And I have to tell you, and I think this is a really nice thing to think about. The supreme reward for attaining expertise, for becoming a top in your field, is the fulfillment of passing your knowledge on to help someone in need. Yeah, I'm an expert in this. Let me help you out. Experts deserve a place where they can confidently share their knowledge without worrying about some corporation or AI stealing it to increase shareholder value. Humanity deserves a safe haven from AI. The expert directory full of experts who literally get pleasure in helping you. People like Rodney Barnhart, who is a listener. Rodney's listening right now. VMware vExpert. Edward Van Biljon, a Microsoft MVP and ethical hacker. There are Cisco design professionals. There are executive IT directors. There are people who can help you with the business side of IT, with the hands-on nitty-gritty nuts and bolts side, everything. And I got to tell you, other platforms, you know the names, betray their contributors by selling their content to train AI models. At Experts Exchange, your privacy is not for sale. They stand against the betrayal of contributors worldwide. They have never and will never sell your data, your content, your likeness. They block and strictly prohibit AI companies from scraping content from their site to train LLMs. And there is no LLM content in the threads. The moderators make sure of that. This is what you want. Humans helping other humans. And great answers for all the questions you have. Join Experts Exchange today. And now this is the deal. I'm really thrilled they did this. Get 90 days free, no credit card required. So join them. It'll cost you nothing for 3 months and see if it's worth it. It tells me they're pretty confident in their product. 90 days free, no credit card. Just go to e-e.com/twit to learn more. And by the way, it tells you something about how long they've been around. They've got one of those 3-letter .com addresses, e-e.com/twit. I had a great day talking to these people at Experts Exchange, and I'm so excited about what, their vision and what they're trying to do with this. And it was great. It brought me back to the good old days. Experts Exchange, e-e.com/twit. Twit. Thank you, Experts Exchange, for believing in us. We believe in you. Humans, we got to stick together. Really good story in the Wall Street Journal. I don't know if you saw this, about Alicia, a man who scammed hundreds online. But this is really important. The Times did a story like this a few months ago, too, and it's really important. You've all seen the pig butchering scams. I get messages every single day.
Every day.
Every day.
Hey, every day.
You know, I can't get to dinner tonight, but maybe we could do it tomorrow. Or I got one the other day. I always
Are you
report
back in
them.
town? I do the report junk, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
or, hey, I don't know this number. Is this Joe?
Yeah.
And so what you're supposed to do is be a nice person, say, oh, no, it's not Joe. I'm sorry. You got the wrong number. And then he says, oh, well, what is your name? Are you nice? So the people who do this are very often enslaved, in effect.
Yeah.
Chinese gangsters traffic people from around the world, bring them often to remote and lawless places in Southeast Asia, like Myanmar, force them to sit at computers all day scamming strangers online. So if you yell at these guys, you're yelling at another victim, really. So this is a really wild story. The guy was a 41-year-old IT professional. He was Ethiopian. He took a job, he thought, right? They get recruiters in Ethiopia, offer him great money, goes there, they take his passport. They say, here's your dorm, and we're going to beat you unless you do this.
My God.
He was trapped in a criminal enclave in Myanmar where his captors made him assume the fake online alter ego of a rich Singaporean woman they called Alicia. They actually had a manual on how to seduce men online and manipulating them into pouring their money into bogus investments. That's the end game, of course, to get you to give them your money. After weeks of secret planning late last year, Billy and others in his dormitory went on strike. Punishment was swift. Billy said he was handcuffed, hung by his wrists for about a week, where the other captives could see him suffering. Then he was taken to an unlit bathroom stall and tortured. For another week, his captors beat him and said, you want to get out of here? You need to scrounge up $7,000.
Jeez.
His family did it and got him out. He and 3 others with him were among a few hundred who made it out in recent years from these industrial scale scam enterprises. I mean, we knew about this from the New York Times piece. This is just another one that says exactly the same thing. They interviewed the guy. More traumatic than the physical abuse, he said, was being confronted by the victims whose lives he was forced to ruin. Victims often lose their retirement funds, their families, their wills to live. One Pakistani man who had a wife and 4 children became so obsessed with Alicia, the woman Billy portrayed, wrote her long essays that read like desperate love poems. When Billy stopped responding, he said the man sent him a video of himself throwing acid on his face.
Oh, my God.
He said, I will never forget that to the day I did. I mean, just horrible.
Yeah, that's
So
terrifying.
2 victims for each of these. Really good piece, again, from the Wall Street Journal talking about. Here's a picture from 2019 of barren fields in Myanmar. And then within a few years, this dormitory built.
Oh, wow.
Where these people...
Yeah, it sounds like they tend to grab them in Thailand and then they take them across the border into Myanmar and it's basically lawless. And they're stuck.
And the authorities in these countries are just look the other way.
Mm-hmm. Or getting
They're
paid
bribed.
off. Or I think maybe even in that part of Myanmar, there's like the central authority basically
Doesn't
is not
exist.
present out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. A couple of years ago on Facebook, selling something through Facebook Marketplace, I got the whole scam where someone reaches out to you and says, hey, I want to buy your thing. Oh, but I can't come and pick it up. My brother can. We'll do the Venmo thing, and then he's going to go ahead and pick it up or whatever. And I had that about 5 million times. And this person, I was like, seriously, like, it's such a tired scam. Like, why this again? And his response, he or she, their response was, man, if you only knew, do you think I want to be doing this? And I didn't know about this, like this article in the New York Times piece. And that just stuck with me. After that, I was like, well, what's going on here? And so this really puts it into perspective.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
They're actually sold from one compound to another. It's virtually slavery.
Absolutely it is.
Yeah.
Horrible.
It's
All right, let's cheer up. Have you been watching the Olympics?
Yeah.
When I
Did you see
can't.
the biking thing this morning?
What happened?
Oh my gosh. I finished office hours a little early. And so we were, like 10 minutes early, 15 minutes early. I was like, I'll just see what's going on in the Olympics. And there's like a 25 kilometer outdoor biking race, women's biking
road race.
Road race. And I'm like, I'm not a real road race person. I'm not, it's not like a thing I know anything about. But I was like, no, there's an American that's doing okay. But she was like 30 seconds behind in this little group when I first started watching. And they slowly catch up, and then she slowly catches up to the front, and it felt like breaking away, like he's like, hey, like the American is here, because she wasn't even supposed to be in the.
She was a replacement.
She was a replacement. She didn't even qualify for this.
She hadn't ridden a bike
this kind of bike
competitively.
For 10 years.
Until
What?
10 years
10 years ago, she hadn't ridden a bike.
She was a rower who took a bike class in Central Park because she was working in the financial industry or something.
She was a VC.
Yeah.
First American in 40 years.
But you got to get. It's not
event.
that she won. It's that she gets
broke
up there, and then
away,
suddenly she just launched, and it was like just watching her just pull away. And these are the best in the world. Like the even I, who don't know bicycling, know who the name, recognize the names.
Is
legendary. And she just goes. She just jumps out into the front, and then just starts pulling away. And they're not even trying. They're like, they can't even
lose their minds.
because they're not even going. They're not even reacting because they couldn't figure out how she was going so fast. And she just had a whole nother layer, a whole nother gallon of gas that was just there to
I watched
turn
that
on.
too, and I think I watched it on what I think turned out to be one of the media triumphs of the
Peacock?
Olympics, which is the Gold Zone channel on Peacock, which is it literally uses, it's like NFL Red Zone. It literally uses two of the hosts who used to do NFL Red Zone.
because that's a skill.
It is.
'Cause you're
and they
going
hired
from
those
thing to-
guys. They're like, can we have the Scott Hansen and Andrew Siciliano and have them be, and they've got a couple other people too.
That's hysterical.
But it's this whip around thing where their priorities are obviously Americans that are participating, but also gold medals. If there's a gold medal on the line in judo, they will show you judo, and then they'll be like, now let's look at boxing. Now let's go to swimming.
I gotta watch that.
And it is, I think it's taken the country by storm. I've read a bunch of media articles that are pointing to it as one of the great victories. And the brilliant thing about it is, finally, NBC has figured it out, which is there's a primetime show that's the highlights, but they don't hide anything from viewers anymore. All that stuff airs live. It's airing live on USA Network and NBC. Every single sport from the world feed is on Peacock. And then they've built some very clever things. There's a multi-view where you can actually zoom in and out. And then there's Gold Zone, which is you just lean back and their producers take you where they want.
And I think with this one,
good.
With this one, I watched it for 20 minutes, kind of like, maybe it was like playing in the background while I was working on something else. And I was just
a
like,
good race to watch.
I just opened it up and it was just like, because there's other ones that I've been going, obviously the gymnastics I've been kind of going to, some of the Ledecky, swimming stuff and some of the sprint stuff, like that's my go-tos. The shooter stuff, because it gets the Korean shooter and the Turkish shooter.
But that's because it's social, right?
It's social.
Because you saw it on TikTok. The Korean shooter is like so badass, and the Turkish guy, without any lenses or anything, just goes.
It looks like he puts his hand in his pocket. He's just like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah,
you wonder what he did before he turned 50. Because he's got a lot of practice.
So, I wouldn't have seen that road race at all except for the Gold Zone, because they're like, you got to see this thing, and it's all live.
But what was amazing watching it was, and this is what I love about the current structure of the Olympics, exactly what Jason was talking about, is that everything's available. I kind of randomly went up to YouTube TV, randomly just opened something. Oh, this is live. I'll see what this looks like. And I was like, it's kind of interesting. I get to see part of Paris. I wasn't really thinking about it. And so it was very low key. And then suddenly you were like, what am I watching? I will admit, almost everything I've seen has not been live. It's all been, I kind of knew who was going to win. I kind of I just want to see it. Because it was live, I have to admit, I was like, on my edge at the last little bit, like don't fall. Like she's going around this thing, like don't slide. Like you're winning.
You've just ruined it for everybody. We apologize for the spoiler.
It's been.
But you know what? You can watch it, and don't tell your friends and family. Just say, hey, let's watch this.
Yeah, we ruined it.
We should watch this.
And then the brilliant thing is, now having embraced the fact that people can watch live, is I think the primetime show has gotten better because they've embraced the fact that it is
a challenge.
Highlights. And storytelling, which it always was that, but they were also bearing the burden of being the only window into the Olympics for the viewers, and now they don't have to worry.
I think that's why I hated the storytelling, because I was like, that there's a sport going on instead of this.
Right.
Like
so now it's like basketball. Well, you could have watched the basketball game. Women's soccer, You could just watch that. You don't need us to show you 10 minutes of the women's soccer game as if it's happening.
Another
now.
one that I fell into, by the way, it's been long enough, I think. The other one that I fell into was the women's 7-on-7 rugby, where I just fell into it live, and I was like, I fell into it the last 5 minutes. I literally turned it on the last 5 minutes. I was like, what am I watching? You know, like it was.
Well, and then it was that the one where the U.S. won the bronze medal on literally as time expired, she broke away from the tackler and ran all the way down the field to win the game.
It was.
Yeah, we're big 7-on-7 rugby.
I know we're spoiling this, but this is what's been really different is, and in fact, there's a whole article in the Financial Times, is the effect of social media on all this. You cannot escape the highlights of the Olympics almost instantaneously.
My wife was complaining about it. She's like, I can't watch the news at all. I can't even look at the news.
You can't look at TikTok. You can't look at Twitter.
Olympics, though, right? I mean,
I was like, you need a Chrome extension that just says block. It's like a Twitter mute. It's like it's like an ad blocker, but it's like subject blocker. Like I don't want to see anything about the Olympics.
Article in the Financial Times: broadcasters are actually flying in creators, TikTokers, YouTubers, to actually create this content,
which is super smart.
Brilliant. Well, they finally woke up to the potential.
We talk to people all the time because I do a lot of stuff with creators, and we talk to our brands that we work with, and they go, well, we're going to get this person. It's like some broadcast person. I'm like, okay, I just need you to know that that's not going to have any legs. Like you have to hire a creator who is actually doing it, that you cannot hire someone from old media and expect to get any kind of like traction.
And one of the things FT says is that they're creative. They're finding new ways of approaching this content. So it's not the same old, agony of victory and the agony of defeat, or the thrill of the
thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. If we say it like the wide world of sports, we'll get there. It is. Although I'll tell you, I've been impressed that NBC has tried to take a page. They're NBC. They're not TikTok. So
putting Colin Just in the sand in Tahiti is kind of smart.
Well, they've been sending Snoop Dogg, and Martha Stewart were at the equestrian.
Snoop got a lot of, even Lisa
on
said
every other minute.
He was hanging on the
carrying
bus.
the torch. What's going on?
He was hanging on the bus with the basketball team.
He's dancing in the stands.
And I mean, whoever would have guessed Snoop Dogg would be America's sweetheart, but here we are.
I think it's the Martha Stewart thing. There's something about watching. Have you ever watched any of the Martha Stewart stuff with Snoop Dogg? He comes across so
also
great.
The legalization of marijuana.
Also, that is undoubtedly happening. But so the
you can't really be a gangster when you're smoking something legal.
And they've got like a comedy highlights show that they're doing 3 or 4 times a week with a couple of, I think it's Saturday Night Live people. Like it's first off, so streaming has given a level of freedom to the Olympics.
That's right. Yeah,
that it needed. And they've experimented, like 2021, as it turns out, Tokyo was the part where they were supposed to really embrace it.
And I
feel like they got the streaming in 21, but now they get it. Like now they actually understand how it should work.
It's also a different time zone. I mean, we're not as far around the world.
Right. It's a little easier. It's happening all during the day.
But I think this is actually really telling that how long it takes for a new medium to come along and then really reach its potential is a couple of decades. I mean, it's 4 or 5 Olympics before,
because they're only doing it every 4 years. The iteration rate is very slow.
But it's true in general.
But
2 years. But
you're iterating very slowly.
Yeah,
and you know what it is? Great. We can see it because it's every 4 years. But it still took them 20 years to figure it out.
Yeah.
But we see the big leaps every 4 years.
Right. Because you got originally like. It was not a problem getting spoiled because they would even not spoil it on like the radio and on the TV. They would be like, we're not going to even tell you because we know everybody's watching the Olympics tonight. But that went away very quickly and they kept doing it. And it's like, no, guys, that's not going to work anymore. And it took them a long time to get there. The exciting thing, actually, it's almost surprising, is I feel like they got there. I feel like this time they really got it right.
Social media is like in its like middle-aged or even maybe slightly geriatric at this point. So they're finally getting to it. I think that one of the other things is you're seeing some creators really take advantage of, like Chloe Abram did a thing about the shoes where they cut the shoe in half and they talk about
that was wild. Yeah.
And she did such a great job.
Really well done.
It was really well
done. She got Nike and interviews and
the reason she got it is she timed it so it came out right before the Olympics, but I think you're going to see social media also realize, I can get a big, some of them got it, but she really got it, and she got, she's big enough that she can make that work. But you got like 1.8 million downloads in a couple weeks. You know.
So here, the Financial Times talks about a British food influencer, underrated hijabi, whose signature content involves eating and drinking new foods, typically sweets and desserts, while sitting in her car. She has 1.8 million followers on YouTube, 3.5 million on TikTok. Eurosport brought her in to shine a light on the equestrian events. Like,
It's amazing.
Well, at least they didn't have her talk about the food because, you know, like if she was like trying the food in the
I'm sure the food was
That
awful.
would be kind of brilliant, though.
Yeah.
it would be. It would be. It would be
There were a
rough.
lot of complaints about the food, which is a shame because it's France. Right?
I know that was
Yeah,
like
no kidding.
you only had one job. Like you know.
Are you saying that the croissants and baguettes are not all that they should be?
No, it's that they wanted to make them very
It's the street
sustainable
food.
and low meat content and everything else. And so all the
The athletes are like, protein, please.
I think that like a
Speaking
bunch
of
of the gymnasts
protein,
all left. I mean,
Simone
they were like,
Biles posted a 5-second video of the U.S. team pretending to crunch their way through their newly won gold medals. Even the teams, and of course the athletes who are young,
Of course. Yeah.
are all savvy to all
Exactly.
this stuff.
Well,
It's
and then-
really interesting.
and a lot of the drama.
48 million views on
the
it.
gymnastics drama, but with Michaela,
Oh yeah,
like that was that like it didn't. Talk about like
It
with
gives
Simone
some
Biles. Talk about
spice.
someone keeping receipts.
It's
like
give-
that's something that was
yeah.
posted a long time
it
ago.
gives some spice to all of this.
and she
the human
kinda,
side.
With age and savviness and dedication, I would actually say also Olympians remind me of successful creators.
Yes,
they are
they
people
are.
who have devoted themselves
Yes.
to this thing and becoming among the best in the
Yes,
world
that's
at
a
it,
very
and they're
good
very
point.
high profile. So it's not
And they
surprising
work
that
their butts off.
And they do. Yeah.
Most of them, especially like the gymnasts, are very good at social media as well. I mean, they
and they've
they
got
know what they're doing.
sponsors.
Oh,
They've
yeah.
got endorsements. They're
So,
very similar.
What's going to happen when we ban TikTok?
That's a great question.
Whoops.
Well, especially because you've got
Whoops.
presidents, you know,
You got
and
the campaign
presidential
is gonna be
hopefuls
run on
using it
TikTok.
and relying on
Yeah.
it and
Yeah.
everything.
Whoops.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. I still feel like it's a threat. I you know
It can't happen.
when you get down to
can't
actually
happen.
making the
Time believes
chimichangas,
whether
it's hard to
it'll
know whether you're going to actually take the beans out.
Are you going to spend? You're a sports fan.
Yeah.
Are you going to spend $43 a month for the Disney, Fox, Warner Brothers Discovery sports streamer venue?
I am amazed at the reaction to this, and I shouldn't be, because I do a podcast about this
$43
called
a month.
Downstream. We've
Yeah.
been talking about it for a long time now. People are so shocked at that price, but you've got to understand that price is intended to replace the cable bundle. So this is a service that's intended to be kind of like right now, to get most of the stuff that's in venue sports. You can't just subscribe to Paramount Plus or something. You have to subscribe to, you either have to have cable or satellite, or you have to do an over-the-top virtual cable company like
Right.
YouTube TV or Fubo.
But even YouTube TV, which is $75 a month, doesn't maybe have all of this stuff.
Right. And Fubo was actually originally, which I use, was built to be a sports service,
Right.
but they had to take all these other channels because they were all bundled together. Well, so these three organizations, Fox, ESPN, and Warner Brothers Discovery, so TNT and TBS, banded together to build a skinny bundle, basically, of their channels that have sports on them.
ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, SECN, which is the Southern Conference,
ACCN.
ACCN, ESPN News, ABC, Fox, FS1, FS2, BTN, TNT, TBS, True TV, ESPN Plus.
Yeah, so the story here is ESPN cable was never available unless you had something like a cable subscription.
It was
And
the most
Fox
expensive cable
TV
channel for them.
network also does not have a streaming equivalent. So my take on $43 a month is I'm paying Fubo like $80 a month. And if they have all the sports, and I think it's an open question, all the sports that I want that I'm getting from Fubo now, this actually is a pretty good deal as a sports fan because I don't need all those extra channels. The question is, will they actually cover everything? Because like I'm a San Francisco Giants fan.
Will you see the
Are they
Giants
going to have
now?
are they going to have a
FS1?
regional sports network though? Are they going to have the local
See, this
regional
is what's
sports
happened.
network
All
or
the
not?
regional sports networks are failing, aren't they?
Right. Well, or a lot of them are.
Yeah.
That one is a little less clear. So that's a question. But theoretically, you could pay for this and a handful of streaming services like Peacock and Paramount Plus, and you could get like all the NFL.
It's a bet that there are people like you who really only want to watch sports.
Right.
Yeah. How many people?
Like as
Well,
long
and
as
again,
I
like,
get sports, I don't care.
All I use Fubo for is sports and Jeopardy. That's literally it. That's literally
and
it.
I use and I have YouTube TV, and I still pay for the NFL ticket so that I can have all of that.
I do
there,
too, and that's
which
expensive.
It's expensive and worth every penny.
Absolutely.
Like it
But
is
it-
such a great.
Steelers
But what
game.
it doesn't-
finally, there's no blackouts.
Yeah.
Right.
The 4UP is really awesome. I mean,
What
all
it
the
doesn't
stuff.
get you is CBS and Fox local channels. Paramount Plus will get you your
It
local CBS
unfortunately
channel.
does.
Fox will not. Well, not Sunday Ticket. YouTube TV will for $70, but Sunday Ticket won't get you your in-market
You need
It
both.
does.
games. It
That's
doesn't.
unfortunate.
It
They
doesn't.
most of their licenses require them to. From some, and so the thing is it's a real disaster because a lot of the stations, the local stations, have lower resolution than some of the other stations.
So the way it works is if you are a YouTube TV subscriber with Sunday Ticket, you get everything. But if you just subscribe to the standalone NFL Sunday Ticket, your local market games are blacked out.
Right.
And then you can pay for Paramount Plus and get your local CBS covered. What about if the 49ers game is on Fox? Right now, the answer is you can't get it. There's nowhere
if you
Fox makes that available.
Right, because I do it with YouTube TV,
Yeah,
and
so
then
you're
I
paying
add
$70 or whatever.
75
for
plus
for your
$250.
locals.
$75 a month or whatever, and
your
then I pay
locals.
for all the and then I pay extra.
So what Venue is all about is trying to take that piece that is the very expensive cable replacement for $70 or $80 and saying we're going to make a light version of that that's just getting you sports channels. And the question is, all right, but will it get me the sports channels I want? And is that a deal I want to make, to Leo's point of like, do I use live TV for anything else? The idea here is what they want to create is a service that lets people cancel their cable subscription and not miss their sports.
Then the $42.99 doesn't matter because I'm saving money.
And it will save you money in that scenario.
And what I'll be curious about is how good is their DVR service? Because the thing for me, I don't watch any live things on YouTube TV. Like I don't watch anything live on YouTube except for football. And even then it's not technically live because I usually start watching 20 minutes in.
20 minutes in. Yeah.
And so, but when I'm, the big thing with YouTube, like with Olympics, it just said, hey, the Olympics are coming up. Do you want to record all of these? And you're like, yes. Yeah. And the same thing with, I record probably hundreds of shows because it's just metadata to them, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just, I hundreds of shows are recorded. And so, and if I see one that I saw that I wished I had, I hit record. So the next time I don't have to think about that.
So so the challenge will be technically who's building this? Is it Fox? Is it Warner Brothers Discovery? Because it's a joint venture. You would think it would be Disney because of ESPN. But here's the funny thing about Venue is next year, ESPN is launching its own standalone service.
Will they pull out of
top.
Venue?
And I don't know whether they'll pull out of it or whether they will reprioritize or what quite the deal is there.
On their end.
Because for my money, if ESPN could come out with an offering with some partners or some add-ons and try to build ESPN as the brand for all sports aggregated together, that could be really powerful. That could be a powerful product. But that's next year, not this year.
And I do think it will partially come down to the player and the service and everything else and whether people feel like it's fluid. And that's, Disney has the advantage that they bought MLBAM. So the MLB team, best in the world at streaming, state of the art. And the other state of the art is YouTube TV. I mean, the infrastructure, to do that little 4UP is not simple. To do it because you're using all these local stations and then you're delivering them all to the thing. And and YouTube TV, those are the two big players, or MLBAM and YouTube TV, as far as the highest quality. I can handle a really complex set of variables.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. This came together really fast. There are some lawsuits. Fubo is suing them, saying, why do you get a skinny bundle and we don't? It's unclear exactly what's going to be in here.
There's also regulatory approval they have to get.
There are lots of issues going on here, but here's the dream, whether it's going to be Venue or ESPN or maybe nobody. But I think the dream is that if you are a fan who wants to watch a sport and that sport is split across a bunch of different cable and broadcast channels and streaming services, I think the way that you crack this, and this is why I keep thinking ESPN might be the ones to do it next year, is have a single app that has all the sports in it.
And that's what Apple did with MLS.
And then what you do is you say, okay, well, we don't own the rights to all the sports, but we've got lots of sports. And anything we don't have, we will either sell to you and we'll resell you Paramount Plus and you can watch the sports here, or we'll link out to it and you click and then it'll just take you to that other app that's showing that game. If you could build a streaming interface for sports fans on their set-top boxes where you could get to everything. Because the biggest frustration in being a sports fan right now is if you want to watch the NFL, it might be on Amazon Prime or CBS or Paramount Plus or ESPN or, it's
you need a
huge
trillion of sports.
It's so much. So you have to pay, yes, but like it's also just very confusing and frustrating.
Right.
So if somebody can say, look, all the sports is here, and we may need to ask you to subscribe to some other service for that particular thing, but always come to us, and you'll see all. Like, is
would
the Giants
anybody ever
game
do
on,
it per game, like a la carte? Like, I want to see that.
I don't think so.
No, because they need to.
They want
plan
subscription revenue, and what we found with Peacock when they showed an NFL playoff game last fall is they retained a lot of those subscribers who then went and watched shows on Peacock. Yeah. And that's the whole game right there, right? It's not for a one-time. It's can we build a larger spend out of that?
Thanks to Alex, we were able to visit the truck that Amazon Thursday Night Football uses. They overspent building that thing.
They did not overspend. That's what it takes to do those shows. Like that's what it takes to do. Like doing an NFL game is
something like 12 trucks. I mean, it's incredible.
But it's not. There's not a penny that was overspent on those. I mean, that's what it takes to do it.
Okay.
Like it is so
he told
complicated.
Me there was no limit on the budget. We could buy anything we wanted. Basically, they believed that this was going to be
NFL
profitable
money.
Yeah. Makes money.
NFL prints money,
and that's a top tier national game like the Sunday night game.
But there was some question.
There are cheaper
maybe
trucks.
not anymore. Whether
but the Sunday
people
night
would watch a
games
streaming only version of Thursday Night Football.
8 to 12 trucks is kind of par for. I mean, well, I wouldn't say 8 to 12, but
it was a big
4 to 8 trucks is par for the course for every NFL game, and the Monday or used to be Monday night, but Sunday night and Thursday nights have the bigger
big time
because that's a higher national production.
I mean, it used to be Monday night, and then it just kind of got.
I think
ESPN.
Monday night is now they're doing it more, showing it on ABC and ESPN. They've kind of brought it back a little bit.
The best Monday night is the Manning brothers.
I mean, you love Peyton and Eli talking.
It's getting better. It's like when they started, it had all the dumb broadcast stuff,
version
and now it's getting better.
Speaking of the Olympics, it's another good example of a broadcaster saying, you know what, just because we've got these rights, we could do other things with it, whether it's having the Manning brothers, MST3K or Nickelodeon do a football game. And you're going to see way more of that, along with way more simulcast. The other funny thing is the rise of broadcast. We talk about broadcast is dead, but broadcast is sort of still very profitable, and
sports broadcast is.
A sports broadcast, 92 of the 100 top rated shows in the U.S. last year were NFL games.
Live.
On broadcast TV.
Live.
So,
and that's why you're allowed to buy pay anything you want for those trucks.
Right. But it's also why ABC had great success showing Monday Night Football back on ABC instead of just using ESPN. And one of the interesting wrinkles in the new contract, the NBA TV deal, is that in winning the B package for the NBA and taking it away from Warner Brothers Discovery and TNT, NBC guaranteed that they're going to just put NBA games on in primetime twice a week. And that saves them money on expensive scripted shows. Mm-hmm. And it means that there's still demand for their broadcast channel. It makes their affiliates happy. It makes them money. So you're going to start seeing way more sports on those broadcast channels.
Because sports are the last. They're kind of they're their last bastion. I mean,
there's a lot of money to be made there.
They've been losing a lot of money in a lot of other places, and they're like, we can still make money here.
Get the NBA song back too.
Yeah, Round Ball Rock by John Tesh. It's coming back.
What? Okay, I don't want to hear that.
There's a great SNL sketch about.
If you want more of this, Jason's got a
Downstream.
show. Downstream.
Relay FM/Downstream. Check it out.
Yep. Let's take. And meanwhile, while they're getting 8 trucks, I'm moving into my attic. So you got
to play more football.
I should do more sports.
Have you thought about quarterback?
I should have. Maybe I could have a puppy bowl in my attic. Our show today brought to you by KOSA. This is a great solution. When I found this, I thought, oh, this is so cool. KOSA keeps everyone on the same page by bringing the best of documents, spreadsheets, and apps into one platform. It helps your team collaborate by centralizing all the processes, all the knowledge sharing. With KOSA, you stay aligned by managing your planning cycles in one location. You can set and measure OKRs with full visibility across teams. That's really nice. You can also communicate and collaborate on documents. They've got roadmaps. They've got tables, everything you need. In fact, they've got hundreds of templates, and you can get inspired. If you go to the KOSA gallery, there's some really cool ideas. Look at the people who are using KOSA right now, and it'll give you some idea. This is kind of a revolution. The cure, they call it, for software overload. KOSA empowers your startup to strategize, plan, and track goals effectively. I know, you're saying another tool, but this is the tool that rules them all. Take advantage of this limited time offer just for startups. Go to KOSA.io, okay? KOSA.io/twit. If you go there right now, you'll get 6 free months of the team plan. What? Yes, KOSA.io/twit. And make sure you go to /twit so you get started for free and get that 6 free months of the team plan. I mean, honestly, what do you got to lose except all that complicated task switching, losing data? KOSA.io/twit. Bring it all into one place with KOSA. Very cool. This is a momentous occasion. I'm going to miss having a bunch of people in the same room with me. Did you get used to that after a while?
Yeah.
Not having
Used to it.
Yeah.
It is. COVID sort of got us all used to it. Right?
Well, in fact, if it weren't for COVID, I don't know if we'd even consider this.
Right.
But
sort of pushed. I was saying to Jason before the show that, when we started doing podcasting, because you came from professional broadcasting, right? Podcasting, we had to use expensive professional audio gear, but the intervening decade or two, the cost of really great gear has come way down.
Yeah.
Way down.
Then
I can't
for
believe
audio,
how
and
little.
then from video production, and then COVID gave it this extra kick where all the news channels and everything else suddenly realized, well, we can't have our guests.
The standards
You
change.
used to
Supportive
send
streaming technology.
You used
really
to send
caught
like a limo to somebody and bring it
what's
to
funny
your
is-
office and things like that.
kits.
I still do.
Yeah.
But not as big anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
It's transformed.
And what's funny is that the broadcasters have dropped their standards so much because they let anyone just jump on.
I know. I
from
see
home.
people with AirPods who are regular
it's really,
contributors.
it's
Yeah.
really bad,
Yeah.
actually.
It's
Like
been-
they need to up their
They've
game
gone
a
in the
little
opposite
bit.
Dudes.
direction.
Because for cheap and very little effort, you can make it
do
look
it right.
great.
I usually do these teardowns, and I'm threatening to just start tearing down, like just putting up videos of just making fun of the broadcasters because I'm just kind of like, dudes, like this is not okay. Like it is so bad. And what's funny is now podcasters and YouTubers are doing much higher quality
Much better,
than the broadcasters are,
Yeah.
which is also part of like, why doesn't anyone believe us anymore? Well, it's because they're used to looking at A7S footage from YouTubers telling them things, and then they look at you and you look horrible, like coming from your and they're
from
still
your
coming in from
MacBook.
their house.
In a dark room.
That's probably why
gosh.
Don Lemon agreed to move from CNN. Well, he was fired, but
There's
moved
that.
from CNN to X. And you remember what happened?
It didn't turn out well.
Didn't turn
He
out
interviewed
well.
Elon.
He interviewed
And
Elon.
poked the bear
Asked him-
immediately.
And the
Like
boss,
you
said
gotta
goodbye.
dig in a little bit before he poked the bear, and he just went, "I'm just gonna poke the bear."
I
immediately."
think he's a journalist, and if you hire Don Lemon, a newsman, and you give him an interview, you don't expect him to throw you softballs. Maybe you do. Lemon agreed in January to move his show to X as part of the platform's effort to create premium content to attract advertisers. This is part of Linda Yaccarino's plan to revitalize X.
So Linda thought it was a great idea.
Yeah.
This
This would not be the last time that Linda got
Yeah.
undermined.
Don Lemon just
The
didn't
boss.
learn the cardinal skill of to stab someone in the back. You have to get behind them first.
Don't do it in
you
front of
get
them.
behind them.
So
and
Elon
then,
agreed.
and then you're in position.
Elon agreed to pay $1.5 million
he went
a
straight for
year,
it.
which is decent money. Probably not what Lemon was getting at CNN, but
Probably not.
still good money to produce videos exclusively on X. He also said, we'll give you a share of the advertising revenue and additional cash incentives as you gain followers. And he agreed to be Don Lemon's first guest on the show. This was back in March. Lemon asked the billionaire about his drug use and politics. Apparently, this is the funniest part. Don Lemon didn't sign a contract.
Yeah, what's that all about?
Elon told him during a phone call, there's no need to fill out paperwork.
Don't worry
man.
about it. I got
need.
you.
Reassured
I'm Elon
Mr.
Musk.
Lemon that
You
X
can
would
trust me.
financially support the show even if he didn't like the views Don Lemon espoused, according to the court filing. Literally, Elon walks out of the interview and says, you're out of here. We canceled this. Mr. Musk said the questions were quite personal. I love the New York Times. As Mr. Lemon pressed him about his drug use. After the interview, Musk texted Lemon's agent to say, this contract has been canceled. Now Don Lemon is suing, of course, in San Francisco, saying, hey, you promised me. It's going to be tough. There was no paperwork. It's going to be a little...
How?
The question is
How did
there
that
is an
happen?
email? Like,
there's got to be something in writing. Yes,
maybe.
Or maybe not.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Elon is apparently fairly cagey.
Yeah.
Just kind of surprising that Don Lemon would miss that.
I think
He
Don
might have been a little
Lemon is
desperate.
I
a
would
little
ask for
bit.
a contract. Even I would ask for a
Yeah.
contract.
Yeah.
Do you have a contract with us, Benito?
I have an employment contract.
Oh, okay, good. I stand behind it, whatever it says. Meta is talking with some big name stars to get their voices, including Judi Dench, Aquafina, and Keegan-Michael Key, and apparently offering them millions of dollars for the rights to
In
record.
perpetuity. No. I think there's going to be some.
If somebody said,
restrictions there.
Leo, here's $1.5 million, can we use your voice forever? I would say, sure.
I think that's
Why
a
wouldn't
reasonable. I think that's a reasonable thing
Yeah.
to say. Hey, we actually understand that these voices have value, and we will pay the people to use their voices.
Yeah.
We got here because there was this feeling like they tried. OpenAI tried to pay Scarlett Johansson, and she said no, thank you. And they're like, well, okay.
She's also the highest paid star in Hollywood right now.
Yeah.
So she didn't need the money.
Exactly. And so this is more like it's akin to the New York Times signing a deal with Apple to license their content for AI scanning, right? It's this idea of, oh, you mean there's a quid pro quo? You mean there's a exchange of value happening here instead of you just stealing it? Okay.
According to Bloomberg, though, negotiations have started and stopped many times because they can't agree on terms. Meta would like to secure rights for many uses over a fixed term on a single project. Many uses over a fixed term on a single project.
That's not bad.
Representatives are seeking even stricter limits. So, maybe, and remember that there's a new strike. Voice actors on video games have walked out, SAG-AFTRA members. So there's still a little...
well, they're in much more... the SAG actors that are part of video games are in much more pressure than actors are for films, because you really can replace a lot of their voices with AI. Like what they're really worried about is that there are a handful of them that are well known and everybody knows and everything else, but there's huge amounts of the kind of the bit actors that are in there that AI can totally do now.
Totally.
And so the thing is
in fact,
if you're at the top,
it's going to be a golden
fine.
age for NPCs, right?
Yeah, all those NPCs are all like, and all the side characters that aren't the main names that of people that are connected. If you don't know them already, why would you start going down that path? And I think that's the challenge that they're going to have, because with actors, I think it's a lot harder with actors because it's hard to be a good actor as a human. Having a computer do it is really a much more difficult thing. It's in video and it's all these other things. But when in video games, you're not even there. You're voiceover. You're doing a voiceover now. Motion caption actors are also like trying to say this is not just data. Like the game companies want to say motion capture is just it's a bunch of little markers that we have. But I can tell you, as someone, when we were working on Star Wars at 20 or 30 years ago, I could see the markers moving and I could tell you who that person was. Like I could tell you that's
really,
this is Joe, and I couldn't even tell you why, but I just knew that the way the markers worked, I knew who the artist.
Yeah.
But they're saying that's me that you're capturing, and that I should, and it should be carried. And that's a tricky one because pretty much the industry's treated it like data since the beginning. And so it's hard to get them to renegotiate.
James Earl Jones signed over his Darth Vader to Lucas, though. Right?
For so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
A lot.
I'm sure compensating him and
when you're an actor, I think
great.
towards the end of your career to have a big, it's like the Beatles selling their rights to their music.
I'd like to push back a little bit on the idea that the bit part players have an easy job to replace, though, because that's still acting, and actors still have to get those jobs before they get the bigger jobs.
No, you're right. So the issue is you're right that they need to get those jobs, get the bigger jobs. The pipe is a really complicated problem with AI because it's going to replace a lot of the inflow, right? So
That's true about everything. That's what AI is destroying in all the industries is the intake.
Absolutely, and that is the issue. But I'm saying that the producers don't. They're looking at what are we eating today, and they're not thinking about their supply chain, But that is the supply chain is a huge issue in many parts of where AI is, because what it does is it magnifies the most advanced people in any industry can do a lot more because of AI. But it means that there's not that many junior programmers or novice programmers or anything else, because it's replacing it. But
Spotify.
But the companies that are hiring people they're not thinking about that problem. They're just thinking about, well, this costs less to do it.
I remember back in the day, didn't you have Samuel Jackson on your Waze or something like that?
Oh yeah, I had my favorite was Dennis Hopper.
Dennis Hopper,
who was kind of a stoned hippie. And he would, at the end, you'd arrive at your destination. You've arrived here, but I don't know why anyone would want to go here. It was like, dude, that was pretty funny. I missed that, actually. I think it was on TomTom.
I mean, they're having Michael's doing the customized AI. Al Michaels is doing the customized. I haven't seen any of them yet. Are they any good?
I mean, it sounds okay. They obviously got Al Michaels to do a lot of specific training, and then they wrote a bunch of dialogue. And the idea is it's a personalized highlight package, so it's just generated automatically. It's fine. I mean,
it'll get better.
Yeah.
In 10 years.
100%.
And that's what they're really worried about.
Yeah,
maybe not even. Yeah, maybe 2. That's what they're really worried about. Right now, it's fake. And it's,
I was
still
thinking
has
about
that glassy kind of quality too.
Yeah.
My son and I, we do a lot of different skills in the pool with throwing the football, and we were like, we could get Al Michaels' voice now and like have it like narrate the whole thing, a little bit of NFL films,
cool?
Music and slow motion. You'd be set.
It's only cool the first time, then it's completely devalued.
Totally,
and Al Michaels'
exactly.
voice is worthless, right? Because everybody's got it. By the way, wow. Your son used to be this little guy.
I have a picture of him like
now.
standing on your lap.
And not stand on my lap now.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's now 4 inches taller than I am.
Unbelievable. How old are you? 16. Okay. You're in high school. Yeah. Wow. Your kids are so great.
Yeah.
It's so nice to see you. Thank you for coming. Last time. Google made, speaking of AI, Google made a little boo-boo. This is right up there with the Apple ad crushing all of the tools that artists use to create beautiful stuff. Google had a father get his daughter to write an ad to her favorite athlete using AI. Dear Sydney, it was developed in-house, which seems to be a problem for these companies, to promote Google's Gemini AI platform, but viewers didn't like the storyline in the ad. A father wants to help his daughter write a letter to Olympic track star Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone, but instead of encouraging her to take part in such a personal moment, he has the AI write the letter.
It gets to the core of the removing the humanity from the very human thing, which is, wow, I idolize this person. I'm going to share a little bit of my humanity by letting them know. And instead, it's like, why don't you write something that's passable enough? And what are you teaching the girl?
The funny thing is
you don't need to write that letter. Just have AI generate it.
And move on with your day.
The one thing that I write personally is
exactly what you write.
That note. Because like cover letters, I'm always kind of like, no one's going to really.
I once got a handwritten, heartfelt note from Alan Alda saying how much he liked the work we did on Tech TV.
Yeah.
That was meaningful. Yeah. If you had an AI write it, it would.
Now wait a minute. Did you look close at the ink and make sure it wasn't printed handwriting?
It was an auto pen. I'm sure it was.
It shows you how clueless a lot of companies are in terms of they're desperately trying to find use cases for AI.
They really are. That's everything's nailed right
now. And they're struggling to do it. My wife mentioned to me, we were talking about this because we watched this ad during the Olympics. I haven't seen it since. I think it went away.
Well, yeah.
And she said she remembers seeing somewhere that comment about how, I want to use AI to free up more time for me to do gardening and not use AI to do the gardening so that I can have more time doing my office work.
Yes.
This is a little like that. It's like, why is a little girl expressing emotion a thing we must stamp out and replace with efficient AI. It's such a bad idea.
Super tone deaf and doesn't
But
paint
I think
you're right. They pulled the ad.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times you drink your own Kool-Aid and you're thinking about all those cool things and you're internal and you're thinking about all the things it can do and you're using it for those kinds of things and you're not really thinking about an outside world conversation. I think that's
so heartwarming that this little girl, it's like, no,
but it was the same thing.
Your product is not heartwarming.
I think as Apple crushing all the instruments was the same kind of thing. Their idea is we're bringing all these and putting them into your iPad, but that's not how it was. Same tone deafness, just in two different realms.
And AI is harder. Like there are other ways to get across buy a cool piece of hardware, but this is like with AI, it's really like, all right, we need to come up with a good use case that will be heartwarming that we can put on display or
that you can get. Like I was talking to a educational researcher or consultant. They design educational curriculum, and they said that AI is going to change education more in the next 5 years than it has in 100 years. And I was like, I was asking for examples, and he goes, okay, well, think about it this way. The first thing you have to do is you have to learn to read so that you can read to learn. But getting kids to be able to learn, what books do you have? How do they do it? And then we have these Lexile scores. Lexile scores define what their comprehension is. And it goes up to from like 100 up to 1400, I think, as a senior in high school or something like that. Anyway, so what he was talking about is we can just have a child ask, tell me about horses, and I will give that answer to you in the Lexile score that I know you're at. And then I will build you a test from what I just gave you to test your comprehension. And then the next time you ask about horses or anything else, I'll slowly move that Lexile score one way or the other. And so, and the thing is it's just, it's individually adjusting instead of being 1 of 30 and trying to keep up or going too fast
or whatever.
It's every child has an individual learning thing where they're not even reading about a certain subject. They're reading about whatever they feel like they're interested in. And then they're being tested on that comprehension. And then it's automatically just moving them along as they can.
Actually, I'll be honest with you. We had this when I was in 6th grade, 60 years ago. It was called SRI.
SRI. I remember that. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And you'd read, and you take a test, and if you get to go to the next color, and
you just brought back some.
But imagine,
remember that? That was a great way to teach reading.
But imagine it being any subject you're interested in, and building that up from scratch.
Learning differences for things like math, where there are a bunch of different approaches to teaching, and they don't work for different people learn in different ways, and so
like new math is stupid.
Having the ability to adjust to different learning differences. Yeah.
Have you started playing with the calculator, the Apple AI?
Yeah, I've used it a little bit.
Okay, because I'm hearing some negatives. So we'll talk about this too. Don't say anything. Okay. We'll save it because we're going to be back.
I'll do some differential equations between now.
Yes, with these two guys, Alex Lindsay and Jason Snell, this coming Tuesday for Mac Break Weekly. Thank you, Alex, for being here. Thank you. How did it go? Hi, everybody on the Vision Pro. Hi.
We did have some frame dropping when we got it out of the case, and there was some,
better now?
Yeah, it's been cooled off. We think it's been fine.
It's just too hot.
Yeah. It was a mixture of that, and then no one's done a 2-hour stream on this platform before. I mean, no, like this is all brand new. I mean, this is like there's been a handful of
talk show. There's just a very small number.
Yeah. So it's, I mean.
The talk show did it. Yeah.
The talk.
Sandwich.
Exactly. So Sandwich did it and we did it and that's been about it.
Yeah.
so like there, first 10 spatial streams out there for this kind of thing. So
nice. Thank you, Alex, for setting that up. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for your many years since before the beginning.
Yeah.
It's been a great partnership, and I'm kind of copying you now.
I can't wait to see where it goes, and we're excited to see how you guys
used all the
together.
Cameras you recommended.
Yeah, exactly. They look nice. FX30s
I got all the
are
hardware. Yeah, you told me to get, so it should look good anyway.
Yeah,
we shall see. Jason Snell, go back to your garage. We will be back together again, and you're going to take over while I'm on vacation next month.
Yeah,
for a Mac break, I think.
One of those Mac break episodes may be the day of the Apple event, so that might not work out. We'll see.
We'll
see. But
you think what you were saying? The Apple event will probably be
it's Tuesday the 10th. I think.
Yeah,
most likely.
It can't be the 3rd because that's too close to Labor Day.
They've done it on the day after Labor Day.
But I think they prefer not to.
It's super expensive. I guess it's not bad now.
Yeah.
Now they're just streaming. Before, if you do something like the thing you think about on a Tuesday, you're paying like double time on Sunday and Monday.
But it's not live, so
no fun.
You just have it recorded.
For Alex and me, just check in before you give away this desk because we're going to do.
I'll have a little auction. Why don't we have an auction?
Oh, nice.
Jason, you want to get in on that?
No, I have nowhere to put this ginormous desk.
Jason, it's so great to see you. AI Inside, 10 a.m. on Tuesday or Wednesdays.
Wednesdays, 10 a.m.
At the Techsploder YouTube channel with Jeff Jarvis. And of course, you can watch it after the fact.
All over the places.
What else are you doing?
Well, doing that, doing Android Faithful, of course.
That's right. How's that going?
It's going really well. We actually went out to New York for a Google event. We're going down to the hardware Pixel event pretty soon. So yeah, we're keeping very busy.
Can I see that on the Techsploder, or where do I?
No, that's through the DTNS
that's Tom
YouTube
Merritt's
channel.
network.
Yeah, that's through the DTNS network. Okay. You can find that. And then I'm just doing a bunch of random video content for my YouTube channel. Just really at this point, I'm 6 months into this grand experiment. I'm still playing around with a lot of different random ideas to see what are the things that I enjoy, what are the things that connect with people, and hopefully it all works.
You're still playing music and all of that too, I'm sure. Patreon.com/Jason Howell if you want to support his work.
Yeah, thank you, Leo.
Which is great. Jason Snell is at sixcolors.com/Jason.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. May I have another?
and of course, Alex Lindsay at officehours.global. And if you want to hire him at 090.media. A very big thanks to John Slanina, our studio manager for the last 15 years. He's going to retire in a week, right? Something like that. Last show out of the studio will be Wednesday this week in Google. Or are they going to do Tech News Weekly? Nope, that's it. Last show is Wednesday. So I hope you'll be here for that as I weep and cry bitter tears walking out of the studio for the last time. Great to see Patrick Delahanty, who's normally in Massachusetts, came out to visit for the last week of shows in the Twit studio. And Michael O'Donnell, our photo on the X. Do you still do the X?
Just a little, not too much.
You got that great handle, photo. You can't leave that behind.
That's a hard one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great to see you, Michael. Where are you putting your photos these days?
Shiny red photo.
Shiny red photo. Okay. It's because he has a shiny red camera. It's very attractive. Good. Very nice. And you do corporate work and stuff like that. Michael O'Donnell has been with us since the Screensavers. You went to how many episodes of the Screensavers? It was like 50 or 100 or something. It was like every week. Anyway, great to see you. And thank you, Gary, for coming by, our aquaponics fanatic. Try to wear his Vision Pro. But
decided reality was better.
Yeah. You know what? If you're in the studio, there's no point in wearing the Vision Pro. And thanks, of course, to our producer and technical director, Benito Gonzalez. Benito will continue to produce and TD the show from his home. I bet you're happy about that.
Yeah, should be interesting.
Yeah. Got 3 screens. And
Will Benito still have a microphone to
a microphone and a camera.
Excellent. All right.
So he can still chime in.
Good.
He's going to be doing This Week in Google and Twit. Kevin King will be doing Windows Weekly from his house. And what else? Who else is who's doing?
John Ashley.
John Ashley.
Oh, John Ashley's doing Mac Break Weekly, of course. Yeah. We're going to continue doing sort of Ask the Tech guys. Mike Kassar is going to do Hands on Tech, half hour every week on Sunday in the Ask the Tech guy slot. That'll be from his home, from his he's in his basement. I'm in my attic. Nice. We'll see which one is better. And he's going to have a lot of fun doing that. So I hope you'll tune in for that. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We really appreciate it. It's sad leaving the studio, but I think it's going to be an exciting next chapter in Twit. We do Twit Sunday afternoons. We're going to continue to do it at Sunday afternoons. I was thinking, let me know what you think about this. I'm moving it a little bit earlier, right? Because there's no reason not to do it at noon or 1. I don't know. Think about it.
I like 2.
2 is we've been doing 2 at that time for so long. Why are you laughing?
Because I normally go to the San Rafael Farmers Market. So I'm always like, 2 is great.
2 is perfect
because I'm just finishing.
Well, we'll keep it.
It's not it's not like I come I'm not up here on Sundays very often, so I don't think I'm probably the
2 to 5 p.m. Pacific. That would be 8 to I don't know. I can't. can't do the math. 5 to 8 p.m. East Coast time, 2100 UTC. You can watch the live streams everywhere now. We're going to keep doing that. Thank you, Patrick, for helping us with that. Russell Tammany, Patrick, John, Anthony Nielsen. We figured out how to use Restream to put us on 7 different. This is more than we've ever been before. 7 different platforms. There's Discord for the club members, twit.tv/clubtwit if you're not already a member. There's youtube.com/twit/live, twitch.tv/twit. We are also on Facebook. We are on x.com, often at the top there because nobody else is streaming on x.com now that Don Lemon's left. I shouldn't say that out loud. Elon will fire me. And also on LinkedIn, weirdly. Who am I missing? Kick, which is one of the new guys in town. Since Twitch was losing so much money, Kick thought, hey, that sounds good. Let me get in on that. So 7 different places you can see us live, but also you can see us after the fact. Get the, because it is a podcast, get the shows at twit.tv, our website. There's a YouTube channel dedicated to the video, or you can just subscribe in your favorite podcast client and get it automatically. Every single Sunday night, Monday morning. Thank you, everybody, for your support. We really appreciate it. We'll say goodbye to the studio. And a number of people in the chat room said, you should play that Jeff Smith song that he wrote back in the day called I'm a Twit. So we'll go out with Jeff Smith and I'm a Twit. Thank you, everybody. See you in the attic. Bye-bye. Oh, I forgot to say, another twit is in the can.
Yeah, that's important.
Going down another rat hole. I didn't mean to. Seems like we've lost control, but that's the way it goes.